think it's dawned on me that you ain't coming back. I've lost my chance to see us find our way back. And in the end, amidst these trying times, I'll always try to find you. I'll lie to you to find the truth that you hold back. So stay with me. You know that I'll follow. I can't breathe. Together we'll fall apart. Stay here right in my arms, and we'll start again. So stay with me. Together we'll fall apart. Dramatically talk to me, and it's so funny, you're all I wanted, and I can't talk, want you out of my life, so just say none. I'll wait for days if you ain't one, I'll just say none. So stay with me, you know that I'll follow. I can't breathe, together we'll fall apart. Stay here right in my arms, we'll start again. So stay with me. Together we'll fall apart. Together we'll fall apart. Together we'll fall apart. Stay here right in my arms, and we'll start again. So stay with me. Together we'll fall apart.
opportunistic, still rubbing panels as they go together. It's folded the wing mirror in on Gerardo's car.
Misano is such a difficult circuit for these guys to get right. There's a lot of start-stop sections around the back. It's a very, very quick section as well.
It's a fantastic start from the 23. They're 4 wide there by the look of it.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Warning: the following video contains flashing imagery that may cause discomfort and/or seizures for those with photosensitive epilepsy. Viewer discretion is advised.
Tell me somebody how long he will be on my mind.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening and welcome to Chaz Draycott Media, and welcome to round 9 out of 10 in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. We're here for the penultimate round of the championship at Autodromo Nazionale Monza, the Temple of Speed in northern Italy, and it's going to be one hell of a night of racing. There's definitely going to be slipstream and mind games on the agenda tonight. My name is Chaz Draycott, and I'm delighted to have with me in the commentary box once again my partner in crime, Ed May. Ed, we've both been so excited about this round of the championship since the very beginning. I think this could be a really thrown-up result tonight. We've seen a lot of different races here in championships before that don't conform to the usual finishing order. What do you reckon we're going to get?
We're going to get absolute nose-to-tail action, not just because the cars will be nose-to-tail for much of the evening here tonight, with the slipstream being ever so strong here at Monza, but of course because of just how tightly contested all of those positions are in the top three, how much they've been all season long, let's not forget, but as well the fact that because the slipstream is so strong, that might allow the likes of Mike Horder and potentially even Ben Gregory a chance to get themselves up into the mix as well. Drivers that have been so close to getting podiums and top 2 results and just missing out.
Absolutely. You know, it's going to be so tense moving into these final couple of rounds. This is just how close the championship is at the moment. We look at the points here on our screen. Lewis Ward, top of the pile on 186 points to the 169 of Callum Brandt. 122 points for Simon Povey means he's pretty much out of the picture now, but Christopher Smith is only 3 points behind him and only 8 points ahead of Mike Horder. So there's definitely some room to play with there with those guys. RD Simsport are only 3 points ahead of Apex Racing Academy in the Teams Championship, and that in itself, Ed, is very, very close. And, well, Dan and Lewis and Callum and Christopher have all been saying just how fun it's going to be fighting to the line in that championship for the teams. What do you reckon we're going to see as an outcome? Could you pick a winner from that lot?
I don't know. I think in terms of the teams championship, Lewis Ward is certainly the favourite. But in terms of, the drivers championship, Lewis Ward is certainly favourite. But the teams, we thought that it was going to be Apex Racing Academy 1-2 last time out, but all of a sudden a master stroke from RD Simsport, going longer, only having one pit stop, really changed the complexion and allowed the momentum to suddenly shift back in their favour. And with 2 rounds to go, there's not a lot that Apex Race Academy can do other than pretty much bag 1-2s for the rest of the next 2 races, for the rest of the season. And that's going to be very tricky, especially with the likes of Callum Brandt up there in the mix. And now, having a look at the lap times coming through, you can see that McLaren's very strong in a straight line, but of course we don't know how those times have been set, if there's been plenty of slipstream help or if they've only been out on their lonesome. As it stands as well, Dan McCauley at the top of practice, and that's going to be very good for Apex Race Academy to see themselves this high up. Of course, spoiler in the pack could be Christopher Smith. If he gets involved in that slipstream train and finds himself in the top 10 after qualifying, it could be an outside shot, because there's not a lot you can do when that BMW is right behind you, because the straight line speed of that thing, it boggles the mind. It really does.
Yeah, you have to just be so careful about the different car types that are around you. You know, the different models all have their strengths and weaknesses, and that's why we love GT4 racing and GT racing in general so much. You get this variation, not just in how the machines look, but how they go and where they have those strengths and weaknesses I mentioned. It's awesome. Really, really awesome. But Christopher Smith, currently 7th fastest at the moment, 7/10 of a second off after he did a 157.18. We saw him taking a lot of tarmac to the right-hand side of that white line, though. It's not something we want to see drivers taking the mick with tonight, is it, Ed? It's definitely been a talking point on my channel before, but it's a shame when you do see it getting abused that much, really.
That was a really nice line. Sorry there, Chaz. I was always distracted there by Callum Brandt. Really got that line all the way through Ascari, pretty much nailed on. Like a really little tiny run. You can see as well that's actually exemplified by the fact that he's just on a personal best in Sector 4. So drivers really are starting now to become more and more acclimatized to the track conditions, and obviously putting in what would likely be their equivalent of quali times now. Let's see what Callum Brandt can do as he comes up to the line. Hasn't had any slipstream distance whatsoever yet. Goes second fastest.
Wow.
That is a really big move there from Callum Brandt. And all of a sudden now, that's completely changed what the thoughts might be from the drivers coming into the end of practice and the beginning of qualifying. As I say that, Simon Povey goes fastest.
Wow. Incredible stuff. These times coming in now. Really top-notch stuff by these drivers. Simon Povey does indeed go top of the times. Car 1, P1. He may not quite be in the championship fight to defend his title in the later stages of the season, but I tell you, it's going to be amazing to see how he can affect the championship fight around him. You know that he's not going to hold back. He's not going to let anybody else go for race wins. He wants to take the glory, at least on the night. And Matthias Tem, well, he's down in 21st place at the moment. That's why I wanted to look at him, really. He's not having the best of times. He was very frustrated after the previous round, where he, of course, lost out on that podium position because of the amazing strategy by RD Simsport. And I'm just looking now down the order, and we've got quite the mix of times, to be honest with you. There's a few drivers that are normally inside the top 10 way further down. Jacob Money's in 18th place in his Porsche. The drivers in the Porsches have said that it's not going to be the chosen car tonight, but that was very quickly shot down when Dominic Brennan won the race here in a Porsche last season.
Yeah, that's very true. So we're going to see, of course, how that will fix, but I can't imagine it being a car to be in here tonight. I can't imagine we'll be seeing a Porsche win. I mean, it'd be a great turn up for the books, of course. We'd love it, but I can't imagine that the Porsche will be the manufacturer to win tonight's race. It just seems that the McLarens are just too good in a straight line to really go against them. Same as well with, of course, the Mercedes of Callum Bradley, who's been looking very quick. And then part of me does want to say it, Christopher Smith, I think is going to be my dark horse for potentially a very surprising result here tonight, because that BMW, it's so good in the straight line. The only area where that car is really going to be deficient is in towards the first chicane. It just really struggles at the slow speed rotation. Picking up from slow speed is perfectly fine, but trying to get that rotation into the car initially, it's going to be a struggle.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, it's just how he manages the twisty bits, isn't it, really, over the course of this race? But that's what's going to keep it exciting. We know that Chris can really pedal that car well. He's done a great job with it this season. There are a couple of BMWs out in the championship, but he is clearly the one that has preceded all others, and he goes 8th fastest with that time. Matthias Tem goes up into 5th position, and well, it could be anyone up there really, with slipstreaming qualifying, with slipstream during the race. It's all going to be about the mind games and who can manage it the best. I'm super excited for this one, mate, and I suppose it's going to be one of those where we don't know until we know, I guess. It's only one way to find out how this goes. Mark Johnson's got the right spec map on this week, so sorry about that, Mark, but it was an issue at my end where I just hadn't deleted his old one, and his new livery didn't have a spec map with it because it's just the standard gloss that you get on iRacing, so there's no need for it to have that spec map, so we've deleted that, and now the car looks absolutely wonderful.
Really nice, yep, and hopefully it will have a really nice result as well. Mark Johnson, the Legends Racing driver, who's been, I think, a bit of a quiet driver over the course of the season, but he still makes some really good points in the season, so I feel a nice, comfortable championship position as a result. And of course, getting those good, consistent results will help you a lot as we come into the final 2 rounds of the season. And well, this is the second to last qualifying session of the season. All the drivers on their way out, and guess who is going to be the first out of the blocks? I think it's going to be Mike Horder, you know.
I think it will be. It normally is. Yes, it is.
As
the Aston
usual.
Martin.
There we go.
He's usually first in the session, first out of the pit lane, and once again the pink machine makes its way around on our screens, and it's a gorgeous car to look at, to be fair. Gorgeous sounding machine. The Aston is one really tonight that's a bit of an unknown, maybe through some of the weight transfers like Ascari and through some of the Lesmos as well. Might be a little bit difficult to wrangle this car, but I think some of them could surprise us slightly at the very top end of the field here. We saw Matthias Tem right up there during practice, so you can't really rule them out, can you?
We had the same conversation, didn't we, at the Red Bull Ring, where we thought that the Aston Martin could have been a bit of an unknown, and after all the racing was said and done, the drivers of the Aston said that it was actually quite a nice car to drive, and might have been one of a bit more of a competitive car if results had gone the way for the drivers in those cars. As we know, it was a bit more of a topsy-turvy race at the Red Bull Ring, and I think the main factor about that is just how the car seems to take the curbs. I think we saw it at the Red Bull Ring, and it wasn't necessarily a focal point, but here especially, being able to take the curbs at speed and it not unsettling the car is really going to be a benefit to them. We're going to see it into Ascari when they're obviously pushing nice and hard, but it just seems to ride the curbs really nicely. Doesn't seem at all upset by them, whereas other cars, especially I think the McLaren, isn't really too comfortable over the bumps.
No, it's not. It's a much more typical low-slung, flat supercar shape, isn't it, the McLaren? The Aston Martin is more of a sort of higher, taller GT car, effectively, a big grand tourer. And as you've seen before, you know, it looks softer when it's rolling around the corners, you know, bobbling its way around the racetrack. It does certainly look like a much smoother machine because it can absorb everything that goes underneath it. I mean, you can visually see the ground clearance on the Aston in comparison to the other cars, and that's what makes it so amazing, that it's so competitive, because it doesn't look as planted or as flat as the other machines, and it just works. It really does just work, and it's a reason that, you know, I mean, you and a bunch of other drivers last season, Ed, you know, you took it on to such great success at the top end of the field.
Yeah, it was obviously a really good car to drive in that last season. I think actually there haven't been a lot of changes from last season to this in terms of the balance of performance. I think a lot of people have more woken up to the fact that yes, the McLaren is actually really quite strong. We saw that, if you can cast your mind back, Chaz, to Sebring last season. That's one of that huge gather of cars coming across the line now, just like their qualifying laps. Wouldn't want to be in the middle of that pack.
No.
But it was a very sort of close disconnect. And I mean, I was in the McLaren against, I think, Simon, who was still in the Porsche at the time. And even though I'd already made it clear that I was going to be switching over to the Aston Martin, I was a lot closer to Simon and was able to race him a lot harder than I think I had been for the opening round of the season. That was just that little shift from one round to the next when the BOP was sort of reintroduced with a new build. And people have almost forgotten about that for that whole season. And then all of a sudden, towards the latter stages of last season, obviously this season as well, the McLaren is a favoured car, but not necessarily at every single circuit. There have been rounds where it has been a little bit out of form. I think actually Spa might have been one of them where it didn't necessarily look like the fastest car, especially towards the end. Of course, it was a great battle there between Simon Povey and I believe it was Callum Brandt right at the end there. But I do think on another day that would have been more of a Mercedes-dominated track. Of course, we have seen these drivers as well switch cars. Dan McCauley moved away from the Aston to the McLaren. And while he has seen good success, I don't necessarily know if it's really won him back the 25 points that it's costed, Chaz. I don't know about your opinion on that.
Well, I mean, he's still right up there in the championship. At the end of the day, the team is only 3 points off what RD SimSport have managed so far. And it's excellent to see that Dan almost made those points back after the first meeting, changing to the McLaren. You lost 25 points for that, just in case anyone didn't realise. There is a penalty for changing car mid-season, because any sort of advantage you may gain, we need to hold that back slightly if it does affect the pace that much. But Dan has done a mega job of it, and Lewis, I mean, all season Lewis has just been incredible, and let's face it, that round at the Hungaroring, the fact that those guys had an entire pit stop less, yes, they had to save fuel and maybe lose a bit of pace because of that, but the fact that Lewis was still able to beat them, despite that incredible strategy, really showed you how fast he is. Simon Povey's looking good right now for a decent lap. He's about to cross the start-finish line. Goes over to the right-hand side, just about touches the white line, and it's a 57.434 to beat. Was it not a valid time, Ed? It doesn't look like it, does it? No. Does not look like a valid time. It's quite easy to get off tracks here, actually, if you push it a little bit too hard in some of the chicanes, isn't it? It's remarkable how quickly it can catch you out.
Yeah, I think the second chicane that's coming up now is a real problem for a lot of the drivers. If they just overstep the mark, it's a little bit too much. Do you find yourself with a slowdown, not a slowdown, rather a 1x that can have big consequences? But yeah, everywhere else it seems to be a really easy circuit to overstep the bounds on. Same with Lewis Ward, actually, who's not been able to set a valid time. But his teammate Dan McCauley also yet to set a lap time as well. So, interestingly enough, all the front runners not able to set a time. Callum Brandt as well, he's in there, not with a lap time. So that's allowing Mike Holder and Ben Gregory to have a provisional boosted SimSport 1-2, a front row lockout.
Yeah, they're doing a great job at the moment. John Tusting improves in 6th place. Jacob Money improves and goes up into 3rd position. John Roberts then goes up to 6th. We've got John Barnes in the YouTube chat. Sorry to see you not racing tonight, John. Or at least I don't think you are. I've not seen him out on track anyway. But he says the Aston was vulnerable to the McLaren and the BMW at Spa, just not enough top speed. We'll get aero wash through Ascari and Parabolica as well. And he's absolutely right. That is something that the Aston really doesn't enjoy, is a bit of aero wash. They have been saying that it's a bit understeery at points. And, well, it doesn't surprise me that the Aston is the one that may struggle here tonight. It seems like it should have that top-end V8 grunt, but it just doesn't. And it's a bit weird why it doesn't, to be honest with you, but still.
Yeah, I think as well through the Lesmos, though, that Aston is going to be really good to emphasise the fact that Matthias Tem has gone 3/10 slower than Callum Brandt, who's got the fastest time in qualifying. Simon Povey with a purple final sector. Is that enough to dethrone Callum? Yes, it is. Here he goes, top of the standings with a 56.548. And now we then focus on the chasing Apex Racing Academy drivers, Lewis Ward and Dan McCauley. Where are they on their laps, and are they going to be able to improve? They come over the line now. Lewis Ward goes 3rd fastest. Dan McCauley does not set a lap time. So it currently stands Simon Povey ahead of Callum Brandt, ahead of Lewis Ward.
Well, 3 drivers that we constantly see up there at the top. I saw that Matthias Tem was amongst all the RD SimSport boys before, and he is again. Look, he's got them all around him. Christopher Smith, not Christian Smith. Christopher Smith just in front of him here, with then Rob Sutherland and then Callum Brandt. Rob running a little bit wide through the first of the Lesmos, and just having a bit of a dab of the brakes part way round. You can see the pops, or see, you can hear the pops and crackles from the back of the Aston Martin V8 Vantage. Already into the second half of qualifying here, Ed, and obviously it's a long lap, nearly 2 minutes around here. They've got to absolutely nail it. Kim Such is off the road, I'm afraid, on the exit of Ascari. Oh, and John Barnes mentioned Parabolica before. It's not called Parabolica anymore. It's called Curva di Alboreto.
I don't know. I think force a habit. I'll just still be calling it Parabolica.
Oh yeah,
it's
I probably
a very
will.
difficult habit to get out of, really. But yeah, Parabolica as well. Curva Grande as well. Corners that I'll forever be calling. Oh, I'm getting mixed up, I think. But yeah, this is a really, really tricky corner, to be honest. I think, especially in these sort of very pointy cars, such as the Porsche, it's easy to just over-rotate as you turn in at speed. God, that gaggle of cars. Matthias Dem right in the back, getting a double helping of the slipstream. Will he be able to improve on 5th position as he comes across the line? No time being set. So it seems that gaggle of cars evaluate their laps somewhere along the line. Callum Brandt is not really where he wants to be because he's currently at the front of a train when he'd really, here at Monza, want to be at the back.
Yeah, that's it. You want to be the car that's getting the slipstream, not giving the slipstream. Dan McCauley's done a purple sector on the lap where he's behind his teammate Lewis Ward. And still no valid time on the board for Dan. That's really important, that is, because he's got 5.5 minutes left to go, so a couple of laps. But it's not going to be enough to dip into the pits, get new tyres and go back out again. So he needs to get on with this now, does Dan. He needs to be careful of moments like that, running wide on the exit. Listen to the curb rattling away underneath the right-hand side wheels. It's currently Simon Povey, fastest by 0.2 of a second. Ralph Mayer and Stuart Clark do not have valid times on the board yet. And Rob Sharp going well again. He's in the Porsche in 3rd position. So he's showing everybody that the Porsche can definitely be competitive. He's helping his teammate there, Jacob Money. They may be from different teams specifically, but they're both racing for Orris Sapphire Simsport in this championship. They've teamed up together to do the Porsche a good honour. And let's see what Jacob Money can do. He definitely got slipstream that lap off Rob. He does improve, but doesn't go up a position, Ed. That's important. That's going to be frustrating for him in a way.
No, but see, I think with a lot of this, I mean, these two Porsches, they're working really nicely together. Obviously, the two teammates in cahoots. And this is, I think, what me and Hopley, Andrew, were doing so well last season, is working together in qualifying. I think the amount of P1s that we had together, I think we had the most pole positions. Obviously, the results were a lot harder to hang on to when you got Simon Povey right behind you. But I think that was one thing that me and Andrew were really good at, was working together in qualifying and helping each other out, which is what we're seeing now from the Apex Racing Academy boys. But I think they're just pushing a little bit too hard, Dan McCauley here, and he's running slightly foul of track limits as a result.
Ryan Penny's just improved on his lap time, but does not move up a position as Simon Povey goes even faster. Wow, really quick time, 1:56.340. Dan McCauley's done 2 purple sectors on this lap. What can he do as he crosses line? It's a personal best in the last sector, and Dan McCauley goes fastest. 10th of a second clear of Simon Povey. Wow, incredible stuff for Apex Racing Academy. Now he needs to help out Lewis Ward because Lewis is 5th here. He is the championship leader. He doesn't have to push too hard because he's got a decent advantage over Callum Brandt. Consider that you don't score that many more points than the drivers behind you. You'd get 25 for a win, 22, 20, and then 18. And then you get 16 points for 5th position. So even if he finished the race in 5th, with Callum winning the race, he would only lose 9 of the 17-point advantage that he's got at the moment. So he can definitely start to take his foot off the gas a little bit here, can Lewis, but he doesn't want to get stuck amongst it, does he? And in potential trouble as the race goes on.
Yeah, that's what I was about to come on to, is the fact that, yes, he can afford to not be on pole position. He can afford to maybe not even be on the front row, but what he cannot afford to do is be in the middle of that mixer, as we call it, going into turn 1, when you've got all those cars all around you trying to make their gains. That's a very awkward position for a car to be, but good awareness, doesn't move around to cause any headaches for the drivers, just stays predictable in one space. Might have got off tracks, though, on those laps for Dan McCauley and Lewis Ward. Got enough time to go around, though, and start another one. Callum Brandt now is going to be coming up to the line, and he's had a purple 2nd sector and a personal best 4th sector. Comes over the line. Will he improve on his time? Yes, he does, but not on his position. Stays 3rd fastest. Got time for this lap and one further one. As Matthias Tem improves and goes ahead of Rob Sharp. That's a really nice lap there from the Aston Martin, who we have said is a bit of a question mark hanging over that car in terms of
Oh,
what good results you could expect to come out. As, oh dear, gets caught up. Unfortunately, stuck behind a slow car going through the chicane. But that's just a risky run in qualifying when you're trying to gain slipstream off of cars. That sometimes those very same cars that you're trying to gain from will also cost you time.
yeah, I think Rob just went a little bit deep into the chicane there. Had to dab the brakes on the second apex. Matthias just unfortunately gave him a little bip on the back end there and wasn't able to then complete the lap. Ben Gregory and Mike Horder still together on the grid as things stand on the 4th row, 7th and 8th. Mike Horder is just about to come around the final corner now at Curva di Alboreto /Parabolica. Still got a few green sectors going in. Paul Goffin's currently 10th fastest. He's about to cross the line just ahead of this, actually, behind Tom Weston, who finds himself in 20th position at the moment in the Aston Martin. They all cross the line. Let's have a look at any improvements. Horder does improve, but again, doesn't improve his position. And look at that. There's only 17 thousandths between Lewis Ward, Ben Gregory and Mike Horder. Speaking of Lewis Ward, where is he at the moment? He's right behind Dan coming through the Lesmos. And, oh, that was very wide on the exit. But Dan is going to be giving him all the slipstream in the world here down towards Ascari. And he wants to dive out of the way before Ascari because that's where Lewis needs to have the pace on the exit and really get out of that aero wash. But it sounds like Lewis is backing off. Sounds like it's not going to be an improvement for Lewis Ward. Or does he know that he's going to get enough out of the final corner? Or out of even this corner, sorry.
It's very difficult to see. They've got 20 seconds left in the qualifying session. Will that be enough to even come through and start another lap? I don't think it is.
No,
so this will be last chance for an improvement for Lewis Ward. He needs to find, well, a decent chunk of time, doesn't he? 8 tenths to go faster than anybody else. And maybe he does think that he's going to get all of that from now coming out of the final corner. Dan McCauley and Lewis Ward race to the line. I think Dan McCauley's been able to extend the gap through that final sector. So what will it be for Lewis Ward? No improvements apart from the first sector. As he breaks home, he comes over the line. Will he improve from 6th position?
No.
No improvement at all. He hasn't set a valid lap time. So Lewis Ward, at best, will be starting in 6th place. Oh my word, where has it all gone wrong? He's going to be on the 3rd row, potentially even the 4th if Ben Gregory and Mike Horder, their slipstreaming will work out and help them gain some positions.
Well, Mike Horder's absolutely flying. He's been getting slipstream off Paul Goffin by the look of it. He's done a purple sector 3 as Mike Horder, so he's definitely going to be one of the ones right up there at the top of the field. It just depends how good this final sector is. Ben Gregory's got some green sectors as well. That's really wide by Mike. I'm not sure if he'll get away with that.
Just on it.
I think
that's just on the line.
Let's have a look. He comes across the line now, keeps it nice and respectful over that white. And he does improve. He goes 4th fastest. 4th fastest, knocks Lewis Ward down to the next row of the grid. Can Ben Gregory join him as well as 2 green sectors? His old teammate, John Roberts, well, it's still his teammate, John Roberts right in front of him. 2 green sectors for Ben, bit of slipstream as well. And he improves. He goes 4th fastest. Ben Gregory knocks Lewis Ward down even further. 8th position for Lewis. Philip Hopley is going to come around the final corner now as well in his Mercedes for Waterside Gym E-Racing. And across the line he goes. 3 green sectors on that lap, and surely it's an improvement. Puts him up to 19th fastest. Very well done.
Could be further salt in the wound here, Chaz. Christopher Smith is on a lap, and Callum Brandt has done a purple 3rd sector. This could be enough to get him up onto the front row. No, Callum Brandt aborts his lap, but will Christopher Smith improve from 10th position? No, he will be staying just inside the top 10, starting in at 10th place. But what on earth has gone wrong there for Lewis Ward?
Well, it just hasn't come together, has it? Really hasn't come together. Dan McCauley, though, has taken his first pole position in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Very well done to Dan. He'll be absolutely over the moon with that. Although you say that, he said that his optimal said it was a 155.6, which would have been another 6 tenths quicker. So he still managed to just dodge the silver lining of the cloud slightly. But I tell you what, Ed, that was a very busy session. Plenty to look at, plenty to think about. But importantly for Dan, that's a championship point for Apex Racing Academy and himself, of course. But that helps in the team's championship to bring that deficit down to, after 8 rounds, get this, 2 points.
Oof. This is right in the business end of the championship now. Dan McCauley, like you say, getting that extra point. But Callum Brandt will be breathing down his neck, starting right behind him in 3rd place. And there's always a chance for a little exciting bit of drama in towards turn 1. I really would not want to be in Lewis Ward's position right in the thick of it in 8th place, Chaz. That is going to be a terrifying spec from him.
It is, absolutely. So we'll have to wait and see how this goes then. Dan McCauley will start on pole position at round 9 of the championship alongside Simon Povey. Callum Brandt and Ben Gregory make up row 2 ahead of Mike Horder and Matthias Tem. Rob Sharp is 7th with Lewis Ward in 8th. Jacob Money lines up 9th ahead of Christopher Smith. Paul Goffin and Rob Sutherland make up row 6. Fausto Pinto and Mark Johnson are 13th and 14th ahead of Stuart Clark and John Roberts. Then we have John Tusting and Paul Gosling on row 9. Philip Hopley and Ralph Mayer round out your top 20 ahead of Heinz Mayer and Tom Weston on row 11. Drew Fletcher, I saw him land a plane the other day, is 23rd ahead of Andy Marston in 24th. And then the back row of the grid, we have Kim Such and Ryan Penny for SRM Racing Team B. And you can hear the crowd getting slightly geared up. You can see the gorgeous banking here at Monza. The cars are all hidden amongst the trees there, Ed. It's a bit of a weird place to start the rolling lap here because it feels all secluded and out of the way, doesn't it? Because you're near this bridge and it's all very close. But honestly, the nerves right now that some of these drivers will be feeling at a track like this, it's just different to a lot of other places, Monza, isn't it? It's absolutely mega.
Yeah, Callum Brandt comes into this knowing that he nothing short of a win will keep his championship hopes alive. And of course, Lewis Ward, he knows that if he is a non-finisher, that will be a massive hammer blow to his hopes of gaining the SRM GT4 Challenge title. Simon Povey, he has no fear, no skin in the game whatsoever. The only thing he cares about is coming out with a race win here tonight and probably a race win at the end of the season as well to obviously have some bragging rights as what would be, I believe, the most winningest driver for this season. So he has that to play for. But in terms of everything else, he's got no skin in the game in terms of the championship. So you can bet that he's going to be giving it absolutely everything here tonight. Dan McCauley, I'm not sure what he can really do if he wants to play the team game and try and back up the pack. That might cause more grief for Lewis Ward with a congested field. He just has to go away and try and build a margin as much as he can and keep Callum Brandt or Simon Povey from winning this race.
Yeah, that's the thing. Dan can't really do a lot for his teammate from there, and Lewis can't do much for him either, so we're going to have to just wait and see how they culminate together over the course of the race. But Dan McCauley on pole position with Simon Povey alongside him. He's got great company around him, but you've just got to keep your eye on Callum Brandt. We know it won't get out of hand. These guys are fantastic sportsmen to each other, and the sportsmanship in the whole series has been absolutely mega. So, round Curva di Alboreto comes Dan McCauley, number 41 for Apex Racing Academy, alongside reigning champion Simon Povey, both in McLaren 570S GT4s. They've got the Mercedes and the Aston Martin behind, and under Dan's right foot is the throttle pedal, and he's going to bury said throttle now. Can't get the words out, but round 9 of the championship is underway, and definitely communication between the two Apex cars, because Lewis Ward got a great jump there. He knew exactly when Dan was going to go. He must have counted him down there. 3 wide by 3 wide down the start finish straight. Callum Brandt's on the inside of Simon Povey and Ben Gregory. Then Mike Horder is on the inside of Matthias Tem, and Lewis Ward onto the brakes for the first time into the chicane we go. We're going to watch all of this unfold in the mid-pack and see if anybody gets caught out. All of them doing a wonderful job by the look of it there, though, Ed. That is fantastic sportsmanship, great clean racing, and that's what we always get here. But Dan McCauley's through and clean, and what a fantastic launch he's had off the line. Let's have a look at Lewis, though.
Yeah, it's not cow chickens just yet. Chaz going into the second chicane where everything could go wrong for Lewis Ward here. He's going to go up the inside now of Rob Sharp. Hard onto the brakes, needs to make up positions earlier, as if he can do, and right in behind Matthias Tem, who covers it off, sees it coming from a mile away. Lewis Ward gets the position, has to sit now in 7th place, but that's one already chalked off the list, and we're not even a full lap in the books. So great start there from Lewis Ward. More the fact that he was able to get through that safely. That's going to be a huge weight off his shoulders, and now we're going to see him get that pace back into the rhythm and start to get that chasing done, and really in full force now. As we watch Dan McCauley, he built up a nice advantage, but Simon Povey through that last chicane really closed up now the gap half a second as well. Oh my word, huge clarity in the back there. That's John Roberts with a massive dent on the front as well. I think that's Drew Fletcher, the completely banged up Porsche Cayman. Let's have a look at what happened there on the exit of the second Lesmo. John just gets a bit of a twitch on, tries to regain control, hits hard into the Armco barrier. Great evasive action. I think there's just a bit of a hit there from one of the Myers into the Armco, and then, oh my word, they were all just I don't think they really hit him. They all just sort of
no one
fall
hit him.
off the track and injure themselves in the process. But it was Ralph Meyer, unfortunately, I think, involved in that one.
He got so close to being collected, though. Fantastic dodge, but he just unsettles the car there, and that hit on the barrier, then it sends it into the wall. And I don't know how no one hit him, to be honest with you. It was remarkable that there was no further contact. Drew Fletcher had his own moment avoiding it as well, but unfortunately John Roberts losing out there. Now, back to the front of the field. We'll see if there's any movement and any slipstreaming going on or any shenanigans into the chicane. Fausto Pinto and Paul Goffin side by side. McLaren and Mercedes, then BMW and Aston Martin behind. All the manufacturers coming together except for the Porsches, because there's only about 3 this season when we had about 48 of them last season. Philip Hopley's had a moment as well, which we're going to have a look at in just a sec. But what a battle, and look at this BMW go. There's a viral video going around at the moment of a Skyline racing in the support race for the Bathurst 12 Hour with over 1,100 horsepower, and it disappears from everything else in the field upon the straight. And it looked like Stuart Clark had the same engine from that thing in his car just then.
Oh my word, this is really great stuff so far. Excellent clean racing as we just see Rob Sharp. And this was Lewis Ward, trying to go around the outside of Matthias Tebb and losing out several positions now. Finds himself down in 9th place as a result, and all of a sudden right behind him there for a moment was Rob Sutherland. I think he's been able to re-overtake those drivers, but Lewis Ward finds himself now. No, he's on track at the moment, in behind Christopher Smith still.
Yeah, he's 9th. He's lost places because of that big moment. He and Matthias Tebb didn't want to give anything up whatsoever. And the battle goes on, but he's definitely not got the forward momentum that he had before. Matthias Tebb is defending hard. He was frustrated after qualifying with the incident with Rob Sutherland by the look of it. But of course, right now, I'm broadcasting. Can't reply. Anyway, John Tusting is the biggest mover in the field so far. No, he's not. That's a lie. It's Ryan Penny, as it always is. Ryan Penny's gained 5 spots currently in this race. Mark Johnson's just lost a bit of ground to Paul Gosling. The two of them side by side now. We'll see what the legs on the BMW are like, actually. We'll go on board with it and have a look. As Fausto Pinto's off. Fausto's still rolling back. Oh, my goodness me. That was terrifying. Terrifying stuff. The car rolls and rolls and rolls. Almost looked like he wasn't holding the brakes, but I imagine he was. These cars don't stop backwards very well. Oh, he's around already. He's around. Oh, Stuart Clark tries to avoid him. And then, yeah, Fausto is on the brakes. Oh, God, that's a bad noise. The car just didn't want to stop, though. You know what it's like. And he's now got to carry on with the damaged car. Amazingly, though, Ed, Dan McCauley and Simon Povey are breaking away here. Simon's done the fastest lap of the race, but they've got 1.3 seconds over Callum Brandt.
Yeah, but Callum is still in the range of the slipstream, so I don't think it's over and done with yet. Matthias Tebb, Rob Sharp banging wheels on the way into the second chicane. Excellent little bit of racing on display there. Matthias kicks up a little bit of dirt on the exit. Keeps hold of position in towards the first Lesmo now. Lewis Ward up the inside of Christopher Smith. Christopher is not fighting this one. It is for the points in the team's championship. It's not worth squabbling too hard over and costing his own race any more than it needs to be. So slots in behind Lewis Ward. And we'll then focus on gaining back to this little battle of Matthias Tebb, Rob Sharp. Matthias has actually dropped out of slipstream range of Ben Gregory, the car ahead. So this is going to be all of a sudden a battle for 6th that will become increasingly more isolated if it continues on this way. So the drivers might need to sort of have a bit of a moment where they calm down and think about the bigger picture. They don't want to cost themselves more time early on, because that can have huge ripples later down the line.
Look at this battling going on. I'm loving this. The Aston Martins, BMWs and McLarens all together here, having a good old scrap. That's Paul Goffin in front. Then ahead of that is Stuart Clark, who gets a kiss on the rear. Hello, he says. And Mark Johnson says, thanks, boys. I'll take that, and I'll go down the inside of the pair of you. Stuart's had a nightmare for the last 2 times he's been around Curva di Alboreto. And in that as well is his BMW counterpart, Paul Gosling, who's trying to get involved for Boosted Motorsport B. He's actually glued to the back of them as well. So stuck together. James Holman in the chat, or should I say Jaime Luis Holmano. Good to see you, mate. Fantastic stuff, though, by these guys. Really loving it at the minute. Gosling late on the brakes as he dares. Oh, Stuart Clark's going to have got another tap from Goffin there. Goffin slams on the brakes, puts the handbrake on, then sets off again. But wow, Dan McCauley, you know, despite the fact that he's been getting slipstream, he's done a purple Sector 2 and Sector 4 on that last lap, and he's not been overtaken by Simon at all. Dan is absolutely on a mission here, mate.
What's he had in his Weetabix? Oh my word, he's been really going for it here tonight.
Oh, it's haggis, not Weetabix.
Far and away. Oh, haggis, yeah. Someone's certainly put something in it for him. He's been really quick here tonight. Look at this, Lewis Ward. He gives a little bit of bump behind Matthias Tem and actually uses that to great advantage to overtake Rob Sharp around the outside in the first Lesmo. And what has happened here with Mark Johnson? He was going so well, and then with a huge bit of damage on that left-hand side. Oh, just over the curb. I was saying that the Aston Martin was nice over the curbs, but maybe not if you hit him that hard, Mark. And unfortunately, it's big damage. Is that affecting the way the car's handling? Looks like it might be. I don't know if that is suspension damage or not, but it doesn't look totally healthy. And now Matthias has got Lewis Ward for company. These two have had some great battles so far this season, but I think Lewis Ward, the straight line speed of that McLaren, it's going to be very difficult for Matthias to keep him at bay.
Thing is, though, we know how well Matthias can defend, and when he's fired up as well, you really don't want to go up against him. He's fired up after qualifying. He'll be fired up after having the moment earlier with Lewis. He's not going to be a happy bunny right now, and he's run wide. He's had to get on the brakes, and now all of a sudden Lewis is going to take advantage. He's going to move to the right-hand side. Rob Sharp's going to go with him as well, and look at this. Here comes Christopher Smith in the BMW. Like I say, it's like a rocket, although it doesn't look like it right now. I think he might be lifting off slightly as Matthias moves over to the right, says, go on, Rob, but look at that. He has to lift off so much in the BMW, does Christopher Smith. Lewis Ward goes to the front of this. Tem is side by side with Sharp in the middle. Sharp's looking to the inside. Oh, heck, it's really, really close. There's just enough room for him to fit through. Jacob Money's benefited from that somehow. He gets ahead of Christopher Smith, and it all carries on. The circus goes past another corner, but ultimately, Lewis Ward has moved up from 8th to 6th now. Net positions gained, so I'm sure he's going to be a lot more comfortable there. He just needs to get away from this rabble.
And perfect illustration of what Monza's like. You know how you're saying Dan McCauley looks like he's running away with it? Well, Simon Povey has closed that gap down now to 0.4 of a second. So what was once a 1.2 second advantage is now down to pretty much nothing, as the front three are all covered by 1 second.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic stuff. This is what we want to see. And this is what we will always get. Monza is always a fantastic race, though. And we had a great one last season as well. I'm excited for this. James Holman says it's the best Tuesday night telly going. Only way it's better to be driving in it. Well, thanks very much, James. Really appreciate that, mate. Look forward to seeing how you get on in the Daytona Classic in the Sim Racing Magazine special event. It's great to have you within the community, my friend. So, not even 10 minutes done in this race yet, Ed, and it feels like we've been here for about an hour. This is excellent stuff. Mike Horder and Ben Gregory going well for boosted Sim Sport in 4th and 5th position. All they've done is swap round how they were on the grid. A bit further down, we've got Andy Marston racing with the very subtle Kim Such behind him in the BMW. You're not going to hear nor see that car, so there's definitely no out of sight, out of mind with that bright green livery, is there? I mean, you thought the fluorescent flashes on the SRM car were bright enough. Imagine having this thing behind you. Look at this.
There we go. It's not a nice sight at all when you get onto the the start of a long straight, and all of a sudden you see that BMW closing down at some rate of knots. He's going to have a little look to the inside. I don't know if he's going to properly send it on Andy Mustard. Actually, the closing speed as he gets to the higher end of the gears. Oh my word! He blitzes up the inside. He's going to compromise this line out of the corner. Does Andy Marston have a way to fight back though against the might of the BMW? The way it powers out.
Look at it.
Unfortunately, not. Look at that. It's just insane. It really does have a good sort of acceleration phase. Then it seems to bog down. You think, oh, hang on a minute, it doesn't seem that quick. And then as you get right into the later bits of 6th gear, he's not closing in at all, is Andy Marston.
Oh, but I tell you what,
this is going to be a set. Oh,
he's going late on the brakes. Oh, Andy somehow gets it stopped, but Kim has to go deep to try and avoid it, and then all of a sudden they both come to a stop. Anyway, back to the front. Dan McCauley still holding on ahead of Simon Povey. And I tell you what, this is going to be a case of who's going to save fuel now. Is Callum Brandt going to be able to pull a good strategy on this one? We'll have to see. Dan McCauley has left the other lot. Lewis Ward has left the other lot, which is Matthias Tem, Rob Sharp, Jacob Money, Christopher Smith. Matthias runs a little bit deep in the first Lesmo, and Rob says, thank you very much, mate. I'll have that down the inside. Matthias is going to try and get a cutback, but Jacob Money's already there. He's already trying to do this now as well. Matthias is going to be fuming. He's like, well, you lot just leave me alone. I just want to race. And well, he's getting a race
Lewis
out
Ward
of it.
has gone away from this battle like nothing else. Look how he's already out on the back now of Ben Gregory.
He's disappeared up the road. We'll have a look at him in a sec when this settles down, because Matthias Tem just slotting in front of Jacob Money. Christopher Smith and Rob Sutherland are both there as well for RD, so they're going to have a great view of all this going on. But you're right, he is absolutely gone at the moment, has Lewis Ward. He's 3.9 seconds clear of Rob Sharp in a lap and a bit. That's remarkable, but you have to argue that these lot have been battling a little bit, so Of course, that difference is going to be made where these lot get compromised. Jacob Money down the inside, nearly contact with Mydas Tem. They're very close to each other around Curva di Alboreto. Now I'm going to go on board with Rob Sutherland, though, and have a look at how this looks from here, because this could be very entertaining viewing. Christopher Smith is still pulling away in the BM as Jacob Money and Mydas Tem are moving around a lot on the straight. I think there might have been contact as they crossed the line there. We don't want any of that. Lewis Ward's got ahead of Ben Gregory, you know, actually, Ed, so he's moving up the field even further. Let's have a look at Jacob and Mydas into the chicane. No, they've kept it nice and tidy, but look, Lewis Ward up to 5th. Fantastic stuff.
Brilliant recovery drive. As soon as he gets ahead of Mike Horder, that's when it's going to start to maybe struggle a bit more for him, as there is a 4-second margin between Callum Brandt in 3rd, down to Mike Horder in 4th. Ryan Penny there, tussling away with Tom Weston. With a nice exit as well. Look at the Mercedes, just putting the power down. That's where the real strength of that Mercedes comes. I think the application of the power, although it's going to be tricky going around the outside of Curva Grande. If you can have a nose up the inside, though, in towards the second chicane, that will help him out a heck ton.
Keeps moving over to the right.
He's moving, yeah, he's going really far over to left-hand side of the circuit and easily getting the move done.
Nice.
That is a really nice, clean move. But I think Tom Weston is really just struggling, I think, to put the power down. We saw it out of the first chicane. It's not really what the Aston Martin likes to do. And that's probably where its weakest is that first chicane. Everywhere else, you don't have that sort of stop-start bit, which really doesn't work in the car's favour. It's all about trying to keep the flow through. And I think that might be something that we'll see the Astons really start to benefit from, especially as well with tyre performance, because I think while these McLarens are looking very good, seeing a lot of quick pace from the likes of Lewis Ward, Dan McCauley, Simon Povey, I think later on in the race, we will start to see that performance wane just slightly in the face of the Mercedes and most likely of Callum Brandt, who's in the perfect position for his race at the moment, in 3rd position, saving fuel, looking after his tyres. While he isn't currently occupying the headline spots in 1st, he's where he needs to be right now.
Yeah, he really is. Christopher Smith, by the way, is just on a purple sector 4 on that lap, so the slipstream definitely helping with the additional top-end speed of the BMW already. We've got Porsches, BMWs and Aston Martins all here together in this scrap. Christopher Smith and Rob Sutherland will be communicating, working together at the back of this to make sure that they don't mess up. 2 BMWs side by side here. Stuart Clark getting overtaken by Paul Gosling. Just behind that we've got Paul Goffin, John Tusting and Mark Johnson. McLaren against 2 Aston Martins. There's constant battles everywhere, and again, this is what we love about these slipstream dependent circuits, is that they do keep the fighting very close together. Sure, they can spread out into their own little groups sometimes, but it's not really that bad, to be honest with you. Dan McCauley is definitely, though, the car that is giving tasty slipstream away here to Simon Povey and Callum Brandt. As John Barnes has said in the chat, he reckons they're holding station for fuel. It worked for Lewis at Daytona, and I think it's going to work for them here. Callum can't quite stay with them in certain parts of the course, but he's just in that range, though, isn't he? He's just there, close enough to still benefit from the suck, as they call it.
Yeah, I mean, the suck is really strong, because we've just seen that Stuart Clark, after being overtaken by Paul Gosling into turn 1, then re-overtakes him into the second chicane. So all of a sudden it goes one way, then goes the next. And I think Paul Gosling is about to re-overtake Stuart Clark now. You can see all of a sudden in the space of one lap, the position is going to be changing, well, 3 times. And probably even once more, if anything is to go by on the way into the Parabolica.
Oh, especially if Paul does that. Throws it wide at Ascari. And down the back straight once again they go. And behind this, by the way, Heinz Mayer started this race in 24th position. He's moved up a spot. He's actually got Ralph Mayer behind him. Unbelievably, they're still together on track, as they always are. But that is Ralph a lap down, unfortunately, after his earlier incident. Christopher Smith in the pits. I've always been meaning to change that camera here at Monza. It's got an awful TV1 camera for when cars are in the pit lane. Christopher Smith is in the pits, and I'm wondering whether this is some sort of strategy, because he's not wanting to sit behind all these other cars all this time and get held up and be backing off in the slipstream and so on. He wants a bit of clear track, and he used that straight line speed of the BMW.
Yeah, and I think as well, like you mentioned, the straight line speed of the BMW is its greatest strength. Why bother being in the middle of a pack where you can give that benefit to the cars behind you? You basically play to your strengths, and you know if your strengths are just straight line speed, even without slipstream, you don't need it. Come into the pits early, upset the balance, upset the rhythm. If they're going to be battling and slowing each other down, then you're going to be laughing come the end of the race. And You might be seeing a few alternate strategies coming from those further up the order as well. As look at this little squabble, I think it's better to call it that. Jacob Money and Matthias Temp. Let's have a little look at move being made. Jacob Money up the inside of Matthias Temp in towards the first chicane. There's a little bit of banging and barging, but to be fair, I don't think there's anything too untoward. A little bit of a twitch on the exit though, which Matthias takes advantage of. Overtaking Matthias is actually now going to be trying to re-overtake Jacob Money for that position. Look at this up the inside, and then ooh, so close on the exit. They do make contact. Matthias loses out, but I think if we come to live pictures, he's been able to overtake Jacob Money and finds himself back up now into ninth position. This was how the move was made on the exit of Lesmo 2, running wide. Oh my word, Matthias is going to be so frustrated. He's thinking, well, we've had all this great race, then after all of that, you finally get the position, and then you sack it off at the next corner.
Yeah, he's just thrown it away again. But still, great racing indeed. These are the moments where drivers need to keep their heads, though, because it's so easy to just run wide at a chicane, make a little honest mistake, and just tap the other car next to them. And it's those little taps, especially in racing like this, that can drive you absolutely mad. I've had it myself. I'm not the best driver. There's a reason I'm a commentator, and I've run wide into people before. And, you know, some of them understand, some of them get it, that, you know, it's just human error. You're just trying to push as hard as you can, and you've made a mistake and run wide. Others think that you're just being an absolute idiot and think that you're trying to run them out of road on purpose, and it's so hard to judge when it's one or the other. This is a fantastic fight going on here, though, between these cars. We've got the two BMWs up front, which is Stuart Clark and Paul Gosling. We've got Tustin, Goffin, and Johnson in this as well. Johnson's got the best view in the house as well. Now he's not, he's about 4 miles away, but that's just what these chicanes can do. It just compresses it so much, doesn't it? I love watching this though, and this.
Brilliant. Oh my word, these two still going at it. Matthias with the inside line, able to hold on to the position 4 now. Covers the inside, knows that he's going to have a compromised exit, but I think he's got enough of an overlap to just cut across the nose there. Jacob Money again, he's just struggling a little bit, I think, with the tyres at the moment. He's got worked a bit too much heat into those tyres, and now you can see these having a bit of a flash of the brakes. It's on the corner exits when you realise he's taking it a bit too hot and going a bit too deep. So it's going to be something for him to think about. Maybe try and adapt as the race goes on, because you don't have the same amount of grip now as you would have done at the beginning of the race. Rob Sutherland, though, he's happy just sitting back and watching all of this unfold. He's thinking, right, you two get involved, because you can see there could be fireworks later on, and thinks, I'm going to keep my car in nice pristine condition. You go and knock 7 bells out of each other, and I'll pick up the pieces later.
Who's normally the biggest mover in the field, Ed?
That's a good shout. That's Ryan Penny at the moment.
Yeah, he's gained 9 places in this race so far. He's just overtaken Tom Weston again after the great battle that they've been having, and he's gained 9 positions in this race. The next driver down from him in terms of positions gained is Paul Gosling and Kim Such. They've gained 6 places each. The biggest mover inside the top 10, well, it's Lewis Ward. He's gained 4 spots to move up into 4th place. We've got Matthias Tem in the pits. He's probably fed up of being bashed about and battling Jacob Money, but it's a good call, really. Get out of the traffic and get in the pits as soon as you can.
Very smart. Maybe he's got someone that's watching the progress of Christopher Smith, realises that probably now is the best time to come in. They say he's fastest, biggest mover in the field is Ryan Penny, but it used to be a lot of the time Rob Sharp award. But Rob has really got his qualifying performances nailed down now, so we're not seeing him have these great drives up through the field because he's been able to qualify that much better. A little bit extra pace, I think, over 1 lap has really been difference maker for him this season, which is always good to see the way that drivers develop as sort of the seasons have gone on. As we're now in season 2, drivers really are coming into their own now and developing a lot more in terms of their racecraft, but all those other little things, as we see a great little battle developing here. John Tusting having to lose out there against Mark Johnson, who's still carrying that damage from earlier on in the race. And to be fair, if I was Mark, I'd be coming in sooner rather than later, get that car fixed up and have a proper charge in the second half of the race.
Well, funnily enough, actually, Mark's gained 2 places from where he started in this race as well. So he's not doing too badly. He's having a pretty decent run of it. But like you say, you'd think maybe get that fixed first. This fantastic 5-car battle we had has now whittled itself down to 2. Jacob Money and Rob Sutherland, the last 2 men standing right now. But you can bet that they'll be in the pits very, very soon. Dan McCauley and Simon Povey and Callum Brandt are just rounding the final corner now. I think Dan's going to need to pit sooner rather than later. Not going to be too long now that he can survive at the front of this. I'm wondering, is this Simon now going to go for the move? He's going to give it a go. He moves to the left-hand side. That says to me that he's done fuel saving. Now, Lewis Ward is into the pits. This tells me Simon is done fuel saving now. He wants a fast in lap. He wants to ruin the pace of Dan's race. And for the first time tonight, we have a change of lead. Simon Povey goes to the front, car 1, P1. Callum Brandt remains in third place. Dan McCauley is now the car in the middle. Is this going to help him somewhat save fuel? I don't think there's going to be enough fuel saved in just one lap here, as Christopher Smith has jumped ahead of Matthias Tem by that much. Look at that. They were right together in the pack earlier. Philip Hopley's car disappears just to show us the gap relatively. Thank you very much, Phil. But that's a big old gap. That is a good 8-second difference there. And in terms of how long they were stationary in the pits, well, Chris was actually in the pits for 4 seconds less. Actually, no. Yeah, 4.3 seconds less. Stationary for about 3 seconds less. So Christopher Smith maybe not taking on as much fuel here. But now there's going to be a lot of changes in the pit lane. There's drivers coming in and out and shake it all about. Lewis Ward is ahead of Christopher Smith, but not by a massive amount, you know. What about Rob Sutherland and Matthias Tem side by side in the background here? And Matthias is the car in front as they get on the brakes into the chicane. No love lost there between those two in that chicane after qualifying. But Simon Povey, now he's at the front. Look at this. He's really ragging it now, and he's giving it everything in the Spontex CDM Esports McLaren. Unfortunately, Gary Toll not able to make it again this evening, but we hope to see him back in the final round of the season. And Simon is now on a mission to get into the pits as soon as possible.
You see the attitude of that car as it was coming through Ascari. He's really razzing it through. And now he's most likely coming into the pits very short. You can see a tighter line going through the parabolica, hugging the white line on the way in. So all of them now coming into the pits need to be careful not to have any contact, no damage. They all seem to get through cleanly, and it's going to be a battle of who's pretty much got the fastest pit crew. Who's going to maybe try and underfuel the car and get track position. I don't know if that's something you necessarily want around here, but we might see if some drivers will underfuel enough to be out of the slipstream and see if they can break away.
Well, one of the advantages Simon Povey's got there is that he stopped in front of Dan and maybe obscured Dan's pit box slightly, so Dan had to hesitate a little bit on the way in. But look at all these lot now, nicely framed there, the top 5. Who's going to get moving first? I expect Callum Brandt's probably going to get moving first, you know, because he might have saved the most fuel here and had the shortest stop. He just wants to come in at the same time, and look at that, right on cue. Callum Brandt is absolutely gone. See you in a bit, boys. Thanks for the fuel saving. I'll catch you at the end. Wow.
Oh, that's really, really nicely done there by Callum Brandt, ahead of Simon Povey now. Will he be able to build a margin to the out of slipstream range? I don't think he will, but of course, there are cars behind that could throw themselves in the mix. Of course, why wouldn't they? Simon Povey in. Actually, where's Dan McCauley in all this? Is Dan McCauley dropped back out of slipstream range from Simon Povey? He might just have done, you know, I'm seeing that it's 3.5 seconds between Simon and Dan. Yeah. That could be really big in terms of the way this race is going to go. There's Dan McCauley. Where's Simon Povey? He's cleared off down the road. He's got almost 4 seconds.
Lewis Ward has importantly jumped Mike Horder as well, and so too has Christopher Smith. So RD Simsport, in terms of the fuel strategy, again, doing an absolute blinder here, and Christopher is flying. This team's championship battle is so close because the two teams with 2 cars each take up 4 of the spots within the top 5 of this race. I am in love with this championship, Ed, and every single Tuesday night it makes me fall in love even more. We carry on now after the first pit stops here at Monza, and it is Callum Bratton leading the way, Simon Povey second, Dan McCauley, Lewis Ward, Christopher Smith. I don't know if he's got Christy or Callum as his brothers, but Christopher Smith certainly has not been done a justice by me and my naming this season. But still, what an amazing championship we have on our hands here, Ed. And once again, I'm sat here beaming, loving every minute, not knowing where to look.
Yeah, and now we're getting to the phase of the race where Callum, after so much racing, in third place, finds himself in the lead of the race. And with a car that we know comes into its own after the first round of pit stops, it seems to just get a whole new lease of life. I don't know what it happens. It gets, I don't know, a few extra horsepowers, a few extra sort of moments of grip, something. I don't know what they do to it, but it comes alive for him. We saw it last time out when it was Callum and Simon sharing a track together at Spa. His car came alive right at the end and threw the cat amongst the pigeons. And I think we might see it here at Monza, him moving about trying to break the toe to Simon Povey. He's not really going to find much success around here in Monza breaking the toe. You've got no chance whatsoever. So he's going to have to just settle into the fact that Simon's going to be there with him for the remainder of this stint. But they have to work together now to break away from Dan McCauley. Lewis Ward, he's comfortably in 4th place. Likely overtake or close back up to Dan McCauley. at the later stage of the race, and if Dan's not in with a chance of fighting for the lead of the race, you'd imagine that they would invert those two positions around for the sake of the championship, especially as we are into this late stage. But Callum is doing everything he needs to do. Like we were saying at the start, Chaz, nothing short of a win would keep his championship hopes alive, and he's doing exactly what he needs to do here tonight.
Really is.
Oh, as I say that.
Pushing a little bit too hard there, maybe, but you know that Simon's probably going to want to sit behind now because he knows just how much fuel Callum can save. So he's thinking, right, you've done loads of fuel saving in that first stint, Sunshine. I know what you and that Mercedes can do. I ain't taking any chances. I think Simon is going to sit here the whole time. He's not going to try and slow Callum up. He's not going to have a go. He's not going to have a battle. He's just going to sit there and wait. Dan McCauley, though, it's worst case scenario for Dan, because not only has he dropped behind the two cars that he was battling with at the start, but he's out of slipstream range, so he's not even going to be... It's not like it's even his turn to save fuel now. It's a nightmare for him. I'm really, really sad for him, but still, we know that Dan will push on. We know that he's going to be turning blue behind that wheel and trying everything he can to push on. That's as if the lid wasn't already bright blue anyway. He's got a gorgeous helmet design, as Dan, actually. Seen it for many a year now, but still... What a boy Dan is going to be now. Pushing. Oh, I have to say it. I have to say it, Dan. I'm so sorry. The next time I come up to Scotland, he's going to absolutely slap me. He needs to be careful with this three-point turn, though, because there's going to be cars coming around the final corner. He's edging away from the wall. He's done it in a way that's really, really respectful to not just burst back out onto the road, but he's got no other option than to reverse. But I'm going to look away now, because now I need to put my head in my hands and absolutely cry.
And while Chaz cries... Well, there won't be any cries of sadness, but maybe cries of elation and joy for RD Simsport, as that could be a pivotal moment in the team's championship. Dan McCauley, from what was a podium position, over-rotates the rear of the car, breaking away, and we said that that could be a factor in the McLaren. It doesn't like the curves, it doesn't like the rotation. If you put too much steering lock in at high speed, it is prone to over-rotate and to spin around, and sadly, that's what's taken away from Dan McCauley's brilliant race so far. Let's not forget, he was pole position. He was having probably what was one of his best races all season long. But that's the way racing is. It's cruel, and it can be taken away from you in, well, the blink of an eye, as we've just seen. That is absolutely heartbreaking. And Chaz, to be fair, curse the commentator, and now you know how it feels to be me.
Oh, honestly, for anyone that doesn't know, Ed has the most powerful and instantaneous commentator's curse I've ever seen. I've never met anyone with a commentator's curse like it, but that is an example of how powerful it can be, even for a mere mortal like myself. Unbelievable, though. Unbelievable. Devastated for Dan. He's dropped down to 11th position now after starting on pole in this race, losing out slightly in the pit stops early on. And now he's dropped way, way down into 10th place, and that's big for the team's championship indeed. But he's going to push on. He's going to try and make his way back up. He's within half a second of Jacob Money, so he's at least going to be able to save a bit of fuel here and there and get some slipstream along the way, which is what he wants. And we now ride on board with John Tusting. It's hard to believe that John's in 16th place, because he's always one of them drivers that's right up there, but despite all the battling that's been going on, he's just sort of... These guys have faded outside of the top 10, and I've never really noticed, as Simon Povey has gone for the race lead. Now, that's a surprise.
Really is. I want to see if we go on board with Callum Brandt as that move was made. If Callum maybe lifted off a lot and basically almost forced Simon Povey to take that position, because I can't imagine Simon Povey really wanting to get track position and break away. But we'll have a little look here.
Oh,
big
yeah,
lift there
big lift
from Callum Brandt. And maybe Simon Povey was almost caught out by that, not expecting Callum to lift as early as he did, and found himself, oh, well, I'm up the inside. I guess I have to take the position, just in the interest of making the move safely and not really trying anything too funny, because you could imagine if Simon Povey then backed off as well, got into the race, and they were side by side in turn one, it'd be, well, losing a lot of time between the pair of them. So Simon's now finding himself maybe not necessarily the position he wants to be in, because he's going to be helping Callum Brandt save plenty of fuel and play into his hands into the final stint of this race. Only just now past the half-hour mark, though, Chaz, and this battle is not showing any signs of waning or wavering. Seeing Mark Johnston having to defend from Paul Goffin, who gets the inside line and handily makes that position. Really nice move there around the outside of the second part of the chicane. Power out for SRM Racing Team A. Finds Meyer in the back of all of this, getting a lovely view of the setting Italian sun. So we are approaching a time where the track does start to illuminate in golden hues, which really shows off the work that iRacing have done for their day and night transitions. Part of the reason why I've really enjoyed this championship as well is it's set a lovely time of day. Just the little factors that go into all the preparation for these rounds make it look that more cinematic and make the racing, I mean, it doesn't need any help to look amazing and exciting, but you know, every little helps, I suppose.
Oh, it absolutely does, yeah. I think it really has worked well, the day-night cycle on iRacing. We do, admittedly, occasionally get a bit of a jagged point where it's suddenly all the lights come on and suddenly all the shadows get bigger and the track goes darker, but you know, it's difficult to manage all of this when it's all dynamic and it's affecting everybody on the server, you know. It all has to be communicated in a fair way and all at once to everybody involved, not just us and, you know, not individually to drivers. So there's lots to think about, a lot to work on. That's why I'm excited to see how rain works within iRacing as well when it eventually gets here. There has been, of course, pictures leaked of cars which now have wet tyres available on them in the sim, so it mustn't be too far away. As down the inside goes Mark Johnson on Paul Goffin. Aston Martin going past McLaren. He's going a bit deep into the chicane, and Paul's going to get a nice run, or is he? No, he's going to get collected. Oh, Mark Johnson just loses the back end. Paul Goffin, well, rolls backwards. Mark's waited for him, fair play. But unfortunately, it's that easy to make a mistake, and that easy to just light up the rears that little bit too much.
Just onto the gravel, he's got no grip, and at that point, I think Mark's just a passenger. Even if he was to get hard onto the brakes, that wouldn't slow his car down at all, and that was always going to be resulting in contact. It's, like I say, part of racing. These racing incidents, they're cruel, they can have big consequences, but you can't really point any sort of real blame other than just an honest mistake.
Yeah, oh absolutely, you're right. It was just one of those moments, you know. He didn't overdo it, he didn't sort of do anything out of sort of behavioural lines, let's say.
No.
He was just trying his hardest, and you can't blame a driver for doing that. That's why it annoys me that, you know, there's so many innocent mistakes in motorsport now that cause an incident, and it's just an honest mistake. Everybody's human. It's not like it's always dumb driving and people doing something ridiculous, but people get penalised in motorsport now for so little. You know, it's just a human error. You know, in the real world, you'd get a 10-second penalty for causing an incident, even though he waited and gave Paul Goffin the place back. But still, we're not doing that in this championship, and I don't really want to go down that rabbit hole.
No, it's a lot of hassle when you start talking about all these different rulings and different things, especially for different tracks. With, obviously, like you say, with making sure that drivers aren't taking the mick in terms of the white lines on the start-finish straight, but we're not really policing it, because at the end of the day, it's, while it is a competitive championship, it's also one that's got a great community, a great sense of togetherness, and everyone's been really sensible this season. So we're not treating them like idiots. We're basically thinking they're all sensible. They know what the score is when they come into these races. They know that the main factor is fairness for everybody. So if we just ask them politely to not do something, the drivers, because they are absolute sweethearts, they do like to listen to us and know that it's for the benefit of everybody. So it's great that we don't really need to police them and tell them off for things, which makes our lives a lot easier, Chaz, which is always good.
I don't know, speak for yourself. I think they're all a bunch of idiots. But anyway, these two idiots in particular are the fastest ones at the moment, Simon Povey and Kellen Brandt. You all know I'm joking. I love these lot. We've got a hell of a community here in the Sim Racing Magazine Discord and in the championships and events, and oh, it's lovely. And one man as well that we love having in that community is Jakub Szymanski as well, who is in the YouTube chat saying, good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, Jakub. We hope you're doing well, mate. We've got a hell of a race on our hands here. We were looking at this a moment ago, though, Ed. Christopher Smith and Mike Horder both having a really strong race so far. Mike is where he started the race, but still, top 5, more good championship points for him. He's actually battling Chris in the championship, to be fair. They are 8 points apart, and right now Christopher Smith is going to extend that slight lead over Mike if they finish this way. Only by 2 points, but still, he's extending it.
Extending it, but when you think about it, where we are into the real crunch phase of this championship, those could be some pivotal 2 points that he will be able to gain if it finishes the way it will do as it stands, because you can see the slipstream. Just, I think Mike's not really going for those moves up the inside. They could present themselves to him, but I don't think he'd take them. He wants to look after the fuel, importantly as well, look after the tyres. I'm not sure, really, we haven't had this thought about how other cars fare on those tyres. We know that the McLaren's quite aggressive on its tyres, We know that the Mercedes is quite nice. I think as well the Aston Martin's usually quite good on its rubber. But I don't know about the BMW, you know.
No, I think it's because it doesn't compare in a negative or positive way to a lot of the other cars. It's just a bit of an all-rounder. I think a lot of the times when a car does have a certain strength or weakness that's strong, like really prominent, like you get with the McLaren and chewing tyres or the BMW with straight line speed, it's often something that's quite widely spoken about. We don't really hear a lot about the BMW and chewing its tyres, so I'd imagine it's not perfect, but it's not also a sort of moaning point either, you know. It's not enough to disgruntle people. Someone that might be a bit disgruntled still is Dan McCauley, car 41 for Apex Racing Academy. He's just about to lap Philip Hopley, who very kindly moves over in the Mercedes. Dan's going to want to get chasing after this man, though, Rob Sutherland in the RD SimSport 2 Aston Martin. He may not be in the team's championship fight for RD SimSport, the main team, even though he's the boss, but Rob is definitely going to do what he can here to not make life easy for Dan, that's for sure, because he's got two of his boys further up in the championship and further up in the race, and he wants to protect them at all costs, I'm sure.
Yeah, one thing I've actually had a bit of experience with was behind the wheel of the Cayman. I think the Cayman's actually really good on its tyres from racing in the SRM special event, the rock around a bit of the clock at Lime Rock, where it was Porsche Cayman, and I believe it was Porsche Cup car as well. Cayman was actually really nice on its tyres, even actually, to be fair, compared to the Aston Martin, which was what I was more experienced with. Oh my word, there's been a big moment there, and that's Heinzmeier. Oh my word, we've had Ralph in the wall, and now, well, Heinz, anything that Ralph does, sadly, Heinz has to do as well. Oh, that's a big hit into the wall. The front just falls off and does the smart thing, gets onto the brakes, and then gets well out of the way of cars powering out the Ascari. But it's just a little moment. This was Heinz. He actually got a bit of a benefit from overtaking, got the position on John Tusting, and then John, front row seats, just to see, he's just pushing too hard. Nearly takes the back end off of the Aston Martin.
Yeah, that's close, sorry. Oof, that is going to be close. That is a good bit of avoidance, that, by John Tusting. Fair. Oh, God, that was a bad noise. I don't know if that came across properly on the broadcast as loud as it was in my ears, but that was a horrible noise as the Mercedes made good friends with the barrier.
Press the accelerator harder just to get out of the way. I think that was just accelerate, clutch the steering wheel, and close your eyes shut for about 2 seconds, I think, in the case of John Tusting. And thankfully for his sake, he got through it unscathed. But I'll tell you what, it just shows how hard the drivers are pushing every single lap around here. In one little moment, mistakes can easily creep in, happen, and take you out of things. Unfortunately, it's into the pits now. Simon Povey, he's blunk first. Is it blunk? Is blunk a word? Blinked. Blinked or blunk? He's closed his eyes and opened them rapidly first and come into the pits.
He absolutely has, but to be fair, I hope he doesn't keep them closed for too long. Into the pits he goes, stops in the box nicely, doesn't have to reverse or anything, takes on fuel. How long is he going to be stationary for? It was anywhere between 20 and 25 seconds in the first pit stop. We will stay on board with him, though, and keep our eye on that timer. It's not going to be as long this time, though. I'm going to bet about 15 to 16 seconds. It's 16 now, so obviously I'm always wrong. 17.98 seconds he is stationary for. He's behind that barrier somewhere. Now, where's he going to come out onto track? That is one of the main talking points as well.
Traffic. He's got to come out in traffic, and this could work really in the favours of Callum Brandt. If he can carry on now until around about the 10-minute mark, which is what we've been seeing is the likely crossover point for the latest pit stops of this race, Callum could find himself in a really good position. But now the pressure is going to be on him. He's got no one behind him, and that could be even worse than having Simon breathing down his neck, because he knows now it's just him, the track, and the stopwatch. He has no idea where Simon Povey is out on track. He might have a teammate that will keep an eye open for him, but I think, to be fair, Chris Smith has got his own race to focus on. Might be able to see that Simon Povey's in what could be a bit of traffic. He's got 2 seconds, Simon, to Stuart Clark up ahead. But then, as soon as he gets up to Stuart Clark, then there's a huge gaggle of cars just ahead of him. And that could have big effects later down the line. That is, unless those cars pit before he catches them. That could be the only saving grace from Simon now.
Well, we've got a lot of drivers that are apparently going off the road and back on again in very quick succession. Here comes Callum Brandt round the final corner. I was just looking at them, saying that out loud, sorry, just to stall slightly in case there was anyone having any other issues. But yep, in he goes. Callum Brandt into the pit lane. Now, where is Lewis Ward in all of this? He's coming around the final corner. Has he saved enough fuel to do any further laps? I think he has, I think Callum might just be reacting to what Simon's done here,
Yeah.
Interesting. Mike Horder's going to carry on. Ben Gregory is carrying on. Now,
I'm worried that might be Callum. He's just a bit too reactive. I don't know. Simon could be in a really tricky position in the next few laps because you can see that there's traffic around him, but it's Callum Brandt.
Sorry.
What was that?
Simon just had a big moment then. He had a very similar moment to Dan. I apologise for maybe overreacting, but look. Oh, you could just... It might not look like much, but on iRacing, that's a proper bum squeaker, that. As Callum Brandt is behind him.
Ooh, this could be big, but now they're both going to catch up into traffic. Callum Brandt will come out in behind. I believe that's Philip Hopley blinking in and out for a brief moment. Gap between Simon Povey and Callum Brandt over 2 seconds, but well done. Philip Hopley doesn't want any part of this, doesn't want to get involved in a battle. Gets well out of the way. Now, Simon Povey, he has over 2 seconds well outside of slipstream range, but of course, he's going to catch up to Stuart Clark. That could cause a little bit of a headache.
It could indeed. He needs to be careful for that. Lewis Ward is your outright race leader right now, though, in the 97 McLaren. I didn't think we'd be saying that at any point tonight. No disrespect to Lewis. We know how fast he is. But honestly, starting 8th on the grid, we didn't think we were going to see him right at the sharp end, but he's jumped the 2 cars that you just saw behind him and shot there in the pits. Boosted Sim Sports, Mike Horder and Ben Gregory. Those two will probably be
with damage. I think Lewis has damage there. If you look on the right-hand side, Chaz, sorry to cut across, I think he might be slightly wounded there. If you go onto the right side splitter on the sort of like the side skirt, I think there's been a chunk taken out of it.
I think that may have been due to the contact with Matthias Tem earlier in the race in the second chicane, there's definitely a bit of a dint in the right door, isn't there? Could just about see it. It might not translate well onto the broadcast. Apologies, because I know the bit rate's awful. But yeah, there is definitely a little dint in the right door. He's now into the pits. Is Mike Horder in as well? No, Mike Horder carries on in the Aston Martin. So too does Ben Gregory. These two could be a little surprise here, because they're going to have a much shorter fuel stop. Rob Sharp going through as well. Again, under the radar as ever. Then Dan McCauley and Jacob Money behind. Interesting. Very interesting indeed. Where's Simon Povey in all of this? Here he is crossing the line.
A couple of cars in front, still yet to pit, but he's got ample space in front of him. Nearly 5-6 seconds worth of clear air, 2.5 seconds of clear air behind him. So this could be Simon Povey's race just to the line for the next 15 minutes. Of course, he has to worry if Callum will close in, because that car is very quick in the latter stages of the race, as we've been saying all season long. But Simon, he's got a healthy advantage now, and he looks to be trying to build on it, I don't know if Callum really has an answer. Let's have a look where Lewis Ward is. Lewis Ward's just come out in behind Callum to the tune of about 10-11 seconds. Let's have a look at those pit stops, Chaz, because I think Simon Povey was stationary for... Well, actually, to be fair, they were all stationary for about very similar times, weren't they, Chaz? You can see there. Thank you very much. Just up on there. 17.9 seconds for Simon and for Callum. Lewis for 18.4. They're all relatively even there.
Lewis could have pulled an absolute blinder here, and really made this work and actually finish on the podium, potentially. He's done a really, really solid job in this race, and he's made the strategy work. Normally we'd see he and Dan McCauley do similar things, but they've been quite different in this one. Mark Johnson's got still big damage on the front of his car,
Yeah.
More than I thought he had before. But then again, he did
pick up a bit of front end from...
He hit Paul Goffin, didn't he?
Yeah.
But I don't remember it being that bad.
No, that's very interesting. I don't know if he was able to repair it at the pit stop. He's had 2 pit stops already, so
yeah,
that's about his final one. Don't know if maybe the fast repairers checked for the first incident, and then obviously as soon as he had that first sort of pit stop, then later in the race that damage occurred that he wasn't able to fix. As Ben Gregory and Mike Horder continue for yet one more lap at the very least, and be fair for Booster Motorsport, if there was all of a sudden safety car who were able to get free pit stop, that'd be great for them. Of course, we don't have that, so they'll have to settle for dropping back in the order. But well, looks of things, they're certainly going to be scrapping away, most likely with Christopher Smith for track position, and what could be quick little interesting little squabble for 4th place.
There's been a few drivers, haven't there, that have sort of been spattered about the field slightly here with the different strategies, and it's all been scattered a bit in the air. So Jacob Money here in 5th place. He's behind Dan McCauley by about 1.3 seconds. And then Rob Sharp's ahead of them. Ben Gregory and Mike Horder haven't pitted either. So you've got these 5 cars at the top that haven't pitted. John Tusting, Tom Weston and Ryan Penny were the only other 3 cars that haven't pitted so far in this race. And they've all just come in now. So the top 5 are the only ones not to have pitted twice. And I think they could all be potential spoilers in the pack. Simon Povey is pushing very hard to get away from Callum Brandt. It's 2.9 seconds now. Simon's so good in the twisty stuff, you know, and with obviously the straight line speed of the McLaren, I don't think he's too worried. You can see that Callum's pushing hard. He doesn't need to worry that much about Simon. Yes, he's going to lose maybe a few championship points if he finishes behind Simon, but he's not there to completely ruin the championship for him, and I think it's going to be very focusing in the last stages of the race. This is a battle. Mark Johnson, Paul Goffin still having a good old scrap together here. Ryan Penny just in front of them. Tom Weston just behind. Rob Sutherland has got company in the form of Stuart Clark in the middle of the field as well. And finally, Mike Horder comes into the pits, Ed, but they've made this one last. Let's see how long their pit stop time is.
I can see. I think the real focusing point will be battle around Christopher Smith and size 10, where they'll come out relative to those two, because I think that's probably where their race is going to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can imagine that Simon Povey's going to be coming past now. Yep. Callum Brandt will be soon to follow. I think that's Ben Gregory who's just overshot his pit box. That's going to cost him a huge chunk of time. Mike Horder will get going in, well, any minute now. There we go.
About the same time, though.
Is Christopher Smith. Lewis Ward will go past. Christopher Smith, he's coming out of the final corner.
Wow.
He's not going to be close enough at all.
Look at that. Fantastic stuff by the boosted Aston Martins. Now, they lost out, didn't they, to Christopher Smith in the first pit stops, but Christopher's been in for 6 seconds longer in the second stop, so maybe it was just the fact that he gained so much in that first stint was because he took such a shorter pit stop. So you can see now he's into the chicane.
That'll be the battle.
And yeah,
Fifth place, Ben Gregory and Chris Smith. That's going to be the real scrap, I think.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be an absolute belter. Absolute belter. You know that both these drivers, such hard chargers, such great defenders. So after the second set of pit stops, it looks like this. We've got Simon Povey leading the race for Spontex CDM Esports. He's been done over by the fuel strategy so many times before. Looks like he might finally get his revenge on that. Callum Brandt, second place. What a star he's been all season. Lewis Ward, well, he's showing us exactly why he's a potential champion tonight. Third place at the minute after starting 8th. He's just made this entire race work for him, you know. He's just put in the solid laps time and time again. Mike Horder and Ben Gregory, again, right up there in the order, doing a mega job in those 2 Aston Martins for Boosted SimSport. Christopher Smith, epic support for his teammate. Then you've got Rob Sharp and Dan McCauley, 2 of the nicest guys you'll meet, having a great old scrap together on track in 2 very different cars. I'm looking forward to this one as well, Ed. This will be good.
Yeah, this will be brilliant. Dan McCauley closing on the back of Rob Sharp. Christopher Smith's not out of the question either, so this could be a really big moment for Apex Racing Academy and Dan McCauley's fight back up through the field. Right up behind Rob Sharp as they come through Ascari. Careful of the curb on the exit. You can see that McLaren does not like it at all, losing out a little bit on the exit as a result. But then the slipstream is going to really bring him back into the picture as we come towards the final corner. Just watching for Christopher Smith as well, just seeing what lap times he's been able to do and where Dan McCauley might find himself later on. As it stands, RD SimSport, both of their drivers ahead of their, I guess, respective Apex Racing Academy sort of rival, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
Dan McCauley's rival being Christopher Smith and Callum Brandt's rival being Lewis Ward.
Here he comes out the slipstream, moves to the right-hand side. Doesn't go for anything fully this time, but Rob Sharp certainly looked good down the straight. Here's 2 other cars looking good down the straight. The Rusty's Roast Racing, Stuart Clark, BMW M4, alongside Rob Sutherland's RD SimSport 2 Aston Martin. Philip Hopley comes out of the pits, and that's unfortunately his 3rd stop of the race. John Roberts is coming back out as well, as these 2 get very friendly in the first chicane. I love watching cars go through there because it seems like such a struggle. I might be a bit sadistic for it, but honestly, I absolutely love it because you see drivers really on the edge of what's acceptable and tiptoeing, as Dan McCauley has now got ahead of Rob Sharp, has a bit of a mistake on the exit of the De La Roggia chicane, but manages to actually gain quite a bit of time on him. It's been a strong recovery by Dan because you and I both know, Ed, that it's so difficult to come back from a mistake that you've just made completely on your own to then push on and then make more positions back and recover from it. It's a big mental challenge, isn't it?
Especially here at Monza, where you know that the consequences for losing out, making a mistake, because of how tightly packed the field is, you lose out on so many positions so quickly that it is just a lot, like you say, to come back from a mental state. But credit to Dan McCauley, he's shown great determination and grit to really sink his teeth back into this race and to claw himself back up the order. But now he's going to have probably what is his biggest challenge of the race in terms of positions that he has to try and gain. And that's Christopher Smith, just 2 seconds up the road with 8 minutes pretty much to go in this race. And Chris has got his own battle to worry about, Ben Gregory. And to be fair, I think Dan McCauley, he's going to be really excited by the prospect of these two battling, slowing each other down, because he might not just gain 1 position, he could gain 2 and find himself in 5th position come the end of the race. We'll have a little look. Chris not going for the move. That could be interesting. Oh my, what? Wait, you're out on the outside. That was a cheeky little look.
That really caught me off guard there. Sorry, I nearly fell off my chair. But I love the mind games of closing in like that and then lifting off, sitting right behind him, then accelerating again, giving him a nudge, and then still going around the outside to outbrake him. That is unbelievable debauchery from Christopher Smith. I love that. I love that, Chris. No offence to Ben, but I just love seeing it when drivers try and mess with one another like that. That was pure mind games. Look at the evil face on that BMW. You've got the angelic eyes of that Aston Martin in front of it. Looks so innocent and beautiful. But that BMW, it's pure evil. And Christopher Smith is going to show him exactly that. And what a fantastic battle we have on our hands. But, as expected, Dan McCauley now 1.7 seconds back ahead. If they carry on battling, they're only going to hurt themselves. Same with these two as well, Stuart Clark and Rob Sutherland, still right together. Oh, I love this.
Well, that was really, really cheeky from Christopher Smith. And now Ben Gregory's going to start to wonder, where's he going to go next? What is he going to do to try and overtake me this time? All of this squabbling, though. Dan McCauley is now well within the range of slipstream, 1.5 seconds the gap from 7th up to 6th. And I think Chris realises he's got to get a move on.
Bye.
Keep himself ahead as Chaz gives a little bit of a wave goodbye to the it's insane speed, isn't it, of that BMW.
It didn't even have to wait to get slipstream. It just drove off.
Just off you go.
Bye, mate. That's disgusting. And I can imagine what Ben would be saying. It's not broadcastable, but I can imagine what Ben would be saying. To be honest, it barely sounded like English. I'd just be squealing at the BMW and throwing stuff at it.
What can you do in that situation?
That's it.
You can't do a lot.
You can't do anything other than just cry. But still, Ben's not going to sit there and cry. He's going to try and fight back here. And Dan McCauley's going to see this change and think, oh, I fancy a bit of this. But think of that with a Scottish accent. Rob Sharp's going to be doing exactly the same here. He's going to be checking his watch to see how long's left. Of course, the beautiful Orris watch. And there's actually a specially designed face for the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge as well, actually, that Rob has done for Orris watches. If you haven't seen it before, do go and look it up. It's absolutely glorious, and we love Rob for that. He's a fantastic supporter of the community and the championship as well, and an all-round good guy. I love interviewing him. Well, these two leave it alone, honestly. Oh, God. I wish I got this much attention from my missus. Flipping out. This is unbelievable. Stuart Clark and Rob Sutherland. It's like the light and dark side of things, isn't it? It's like good versus evil. The white and red BMW against the black and... It's not even red, is it? It's more like a sort of evil red magenta sort of colour on the Aston Martin. This is beautiful to watch. As there's been drama, I think. Oh.
That's a little more than drama.
Yeah, that's a mischief.
That's a soap opera.
That's a mischief, and unfortunately, I think it's teammates. And then, Paul's. You know what? Paul's been done dirty by the physics there. I've gone full out of professionalism. I've brought the Norther out. He's been done dirty there, lad. That's
proper filthy.
Oh, that's filth. That is. Now that was Southern. I'd get it right. Oh my God, that made me jump. Right, he was still at least. One thing I love. I'm sorry, all professionalism's gone. He's still changing down while it's rolling over. Listen. Just listen. He's still trying to get it in gear, bless him, but sorry, Paul, that's Yeah.
Oh, he just wants to see him try and accelerate, even though he's upside down. Just see the little wheel spinning in the background.
Oh, man, that's so gutting, though, into the back of your teammate. To be fair, he's probably worried. Tom Weston was looking down the inside, wasn't he, as well? So he maybe just wanted to brake a little bit later, just sort of negate whatever he was doing, basically, on the inside, and it just didn't work out. Here's the battle you wanted.
Oh.
Here it is. Oh, I nearly said there it goes. Christopher Smith, Ben Gregory, Dan McCauley. Here we go.
Huge fishtail on the exit there from Christopher Smith, putting the power down, desperate to get away from Ben Gregory, even more so to get away from Dan McCauley, because this is a battle, of course, between the two main rivals of the Teams Championship, Apex Racing Academy versus RD Simsport. Oh. Ben Gregory's in the mix of this. He doesn't really have any skin in the team's game. He just wants to get the best result possible out of this, and it's in his best interest to keep Dan McCauley from overtaking him and to obviously focus on Christopher Smith, trying to make that position come the end of the race, get himself up inside that top 5, which is where the drivers really do aim for. Just for bragging rights, getting a top 5 finish is no small feat in this championship. And to be fair, Ben's been due a bit of a win because he's really been unlucky all season long through just little moments from himself or being involved in contact with other drivers through no fault of his own. He has just been horribly unlucky.
He's had
now it's finally good to see him. Sorry, Chaz.
No, it's all right. Sorry, I was going to say he's had wheel disconnects and all sorts all season as well, and technical problems, screen freezes. He's had a bit of everything as Ben, and you're right, he does deserve a bit of a W, even if that's just beating one of these drivers right now. And you know what's actually going to catch us out here? We're going to get another lap after this one, I think, because we're going to do a lap extra compared to what some other drivers might think. Simon Povey's already out of the other chicane, and it's only just ticked over to about a lap left of this race now in terms of how much time is to go. So I think we're going to get another lap after this one, you know, and this is not over yet.
Simon's been saving a lot more fuel as well because Callum's just closed up. Simon's last lap was, well, about 8/10 slower than he was doing previously. Look at this, 3 abreast in towards the first chicane. Oh, there's a bit of moving over from Callum Brandt there. Not Callum Brandt, sorry, that's Dan McCauley and Christopher Smith. And oh my word, Dan McCauley does them all under the brakes. Lovely little move there. That just caps off what has been a brilliant recovery drive. But of course, it's not over yet. You can see that Ben Gregory's going to be closing up to him. So will Christopher Smith. Rob Sharp's just sitting back and watching this all unfold. He's going to be absolutely loving this. He's going to be just hoping, though, that he can maybe gain something later on if they do come to blows. Just look at the way the car powers out from the slow speeds. The acceleration of that Cayman is ridiculous.
It's gorgeous.
And now, what's frustrating for Christopher Smith is that he's been in the best position all race, up in 5th place, and then as he's about to start what could be the final lap of the race, he's going to have dropped 2 places. He needs to desperately get ahead of Dan McCauley for, well, the main focus of the team's championship, because Callum Brandt, he's only just ahead of Lewis Ward as it stands. And I think if it finishes the way it does, is it going to be dead even between the teams, or will Apex Racing Academy maybe claw back a few points?
Just having a look at it now. You've got to think Dan's got 1 point for pole position. Lewis Ward for 3rd place in the race will get 20 points. Dan McCauley in 5th will get 16, so 36 for Apex Racing Academy. RD Simsport in 2nd and 7th will get 36 points. So Apex will close the gap by 1 point if it finishes how it is. There will be 2 points between them coming into the last round of the season. That'll be insane if it finishes like this. I don't want it to. I want to see how much goes on. And I think if actually Chris loses 1 place here to Rob Sharp, he would drop down from, 7th to 8th? So he would lose just 1 point. He'd need to drop 2 places here, or Dan would need to gain another spot for it to be even. I don't see him losing both of them. We've got Matthias Tem and Jacob Money, 2 of the most exciting drivers in the championship, battling away here. Let's not forget about them. But we're on to the final lap of the race here, Ed, and Simon Povey, well, he's leading it once again. He's going to be a happy boy if he can get this one. He's had rotten luck as well this season with penalties and all sorts, and, well, he's certainly going to feel the pain of scoring no points in 3 of the rounds this season, when in every other one that he's finished, he's been 1st or 2nd.
Yeah, it just shows, though, how unforgiving championships can be. He is certainly a really quick driver, the driver to beat, even though, of course, the crown will be going elsewhere. For me, he's still probably the quickest driver over the course of one lap and over the course of a race as well. The strategy he can pull out, it just makes him so formidable, so tricky to beat when it's his day. And to be fair, it has been his day all throughout tonight here at Monza. He's only got about a few more corners to go. In fact, scratch that. One more corner to go for Simon Povey, where he will return to the SRM GT4 Challenge and return in style.
He will indeed. Spontex CDM Esports get another win. The Hedgehogs cross the line in the lead. Simon Povey takes his 4th win of the season. Brilliant stuff by the reigning champion. That's what you want to do. What a drive that is by Callum Brandt. He does an epic job, and so too does Lewis Ward. 3rd place for him. Chris Smith and Ben Gregory side by side round Curva di Alboreto one more time, and it looks like if it finishes like this, what a recovery by Dan McCauley, by the way. It looks like if it finishes like this, there's going to be 2 points between Apex Racing Academy and RD Simsport going into the final round of the season. Rob Sharp finishes 8th. Jacob Money is going to finish ahead of Matthias Tem, who I think has had a problem on this lap, actually. Oh no, he's had an off at Ascari. Jacob goes down the inside. Oh, there's contact.
Oh.
Don't think Matthias thought that he had the overlap. Matthias will be raging about that one. He does get going again, and he didn't actually lose another place. Rob Sutherland and Stuart Clark are going to be side by side across the line. Who's going to take this one? Oh, it's just Rob Sutherland. He only just beats him there. Epic stuff. Paul Gosling does his fastest lap of the race at the end. But Simon Povey, I think he's out of fuel, but he has won his 4th race of the season. And I think you were right in mentioning this earlier, Ed. That makes him the most winningest driver this season, even though he scored no points in 3 of the different races. Wow.
That's what he's going for. The bragging rights, most winningest driver. We saw, of course, Lewis Ward take that title at the Hungaroring. Well, Simon was not about to let that one go sitting down. He turned up and took back that title, and of course, we will see the title decided in just a week's time. But what a drive back through the field from Lewis Ward. Recovery drive has been Apex Racing Academy's modus operandi for tonight. After Dan McCauley's spin at the halfway mark, Lewis Ward's poor qualifying, they both did a great job to claw back some points. And to be fair, if you can hear, there's a sigh of relief going on between the pair of them, because they know that could have gone disastrously for their championship. So to have only really, in fact, actually closed the gap down, haven't they? To just 2 points.
Yeah.
That could be really big as we come into the final round of the championship. You know, Chaz, this is, I think, how championships are decided. When adversity and things seem to go against them, they can claw back, and who knows how this race would have gone if not for Dan McCauley's brilliant recovery drive.
Yeah, it's epic, isn't it, how quickly this championship goes one way and then the other. We're going to get our race result on screen just now and then talk you through how that one finished before we speak to some of our drivers. But Simon Povey returns to the top spot, and he'll be over the moon with that, I'm sure. Callum Brandt takes 2nd place, Lewis Ward in 3rd. Those 3 on the podium again. Mike Horder, a great 4th place from him. He was once again a real star in that race, but under the radar. Dan McCauley recovers from his spin into 5th. That'll be a bit of a sour-tasting silver lining for Dan. Ben Gregory in 6th ahead of Christopher Smith in 7th, and Rob Sharp as well. What a great battle they gave us. Jacob Money finishes in 9th ahead of Rob Sutherland, Stuart Clark and Paul Gosling. Tom Weston finishes 13th. Good points for Tom. Ryan Penny 14th, and Matthias Tem actually did drop down a bunch of positions. When we last looked at him, though, he hadn't dropped those places. John Roberts finishes 16th ahead of John Tusting. Then it's Drew Fletcher in 18th, getting some points, with Mark Johnson and Kim Such rounding out the points and the drivers on the lead lap. Heinz Mayer finishes in 21st ahead of Andy Marston and Paul Goffin. Those 3 a lap down. Ralph Meyer was 24th, Philip Hopley 25th, and Fausto Pinto, unfortunately, after his big crash near the beginning, was out of the race. Whew. I don't really know what to say at this point, Ed, because there's so many things to talk about, so much going on, that we've just been treated to another absolute corker of a night, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a message in the SRM Discord, not repeatable on broadcast, but Ben Gregory basically saying absolutely great racing between himself, Dan McCauley and Chris Smith right at the end. And to be fair, I think that message of amazing, great racing can extend to, well, the entire field, I think, because we were treated to yet another brilliant round of the SRM GT4 Challenge, and one that could have big consequences for next week with the Teams Championship. Well, 2 points, like you say, between Apex Racing Academy chasing down RD Simsport, but as well, the individual championships, Lewis Ward, while he did lose out to Callum Brandt, it wasn't a huge amount. Pressure will still be mounting, though. It's his to lose coming into the final round.
Yeah, I've just had a message from Dan McCauley saying he's absolutely gutted with that one, especially after the fact that he was leading the race earlier. And obviously he was devastated with the spin. He said he didn't move the brake bias back to where he wanted it after the pit stop, so it was behaving like absolute backside. Something that didn't behave like backside tonight was said BMW, and we're going to speak to one of the drivers of one of those BMWs, and that is Christopher Smith. Chris, welcome to the commentary box, my friend. You must be pretty happy after tonight, because that car looked great round here.
Yeah, shame about the 3 wide. That was so scary. I thought we're all going to die.
Ben's just sent a screenshot of it in the chat, and I must admit though, when you were going down the straight like that, it was almost like you were doing it for a rolling photo shoot for the start of the season. It was so perfectly even, but that BM was a rocket ship.
Yeah, in the toe, it was awesome. Yeah, really, really quick. I mean, you get the final, what is it, Ascari coming onto that back straight. You get that nailed and a bit of a toe. I mean, yeah.
Oh yeah, we saw you drive past Ben like he wasn't there, and I didn't have words. We looked at it a good 2 or 3 times, and we just can't fathom the fact that it's got that much more pace. But it wasn't to the point where it was completely unbeatable, though. That's what's interesting about it. Was there any certain point in the circuit where it felt like absolute backside?
All the bits where you need to steer. Yeah, although it's quick in a straight line, it doesn't make up for the fact that it is a bit of a ship.
Yeah.
A little land yacht.
Glad you said ship. But yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I was struggling in the first chicane. You know, it's difficult to be consistent through there. Sometimes quite frustrating that, you know, you're down 3/10 on that first chicane, and you're like, what? How did that happen? And yeah, but I'm glad we put a bit of practice in, and it's started to sink in, and, you know, more or less consistent lap times, 57s. But I think the McLaren and maybe the Mercedes are able to put in the mid 56s a bit more consistently.
Well, yeah. It's always entertaining watching you, Chris, because some of your drives through the field are very, very impressive. Despite the fact that it is a big old boat, that BMW, you somehow keep it under the radar and still surprise us. So hats off to you, mate.
I had to make an early pit stop. I don't know if you saw that. I probably stopped first because, oh my god, the people in front of me were fighting like cat and dog, and I was like, guys, this is a draft track. Chill, chill. We're 15 minutes in. Chill. So yeah, the front guys just disappeared, and it was just a case of getting in front of those guys as much as I can and try and catch up with the boosted guys. Well,
Well, 1 round to go. The finale at Catalunya. Is it a circuit you enjoy? I know it might not be the BMW strong point, but there's a big long straight there for you at least to play with.
Yeah, not a track I know very well, I'm afraid. So good job. We've got 2 weeks to have a little practice.
Yes.
Looking forward to it. I think maybe the team's championship is still pretty tight. So should be exciting.
Except for Dan getting pole position from the race, you scored identical points again tonight. So cool. There's 2 points in it now. 2-point
distance. Yeah.
It's remarkable.
Keep it interesting.
Oh, you absolutely are, all of you. We really do love it, and of course pass our congrats on to Callum as well, and on to Rob, because you guys have made it fantastic. It's been wonderful to have you this season. But before I let you go, Chris, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out
to? Anybody who's watching this in the future, hello. Hello to my children. You never know, they may watch it 4 or 5 years down the line. Look, there was Daddy. So thanks very much for you guys. The production you put on is top notch. Really enjoy it. The pair of you work so well together, and it keeps this championship interesting, I suppose, watching it back, and the coverage is brilliant. Thanks to Megan.
Thank you very much, Chris. Really appreciate that, mate. Thank you. Honestly, it means a lot to hear that. So we will hopefully speak to you again at Catalunya, but if we don't, have a fantastic time and enjoy the rest of the season and enjoy the week off as well and enjoy Valentine's Day. The car has got its wish.
Thank you. See you later.
See you.
Bye.
Lovely stuff, Christopher Smith. What a guy. Really nice lad and very good in that BMW, Ed. He's definitely been the sort of spearhead of the BMW attack this season, hasn't he?
Yeah, it really has been. It's been something that's been exciting to watch and just see. I mean, like you say, Chaz, that little screenshot that Ben posted in the Discord, it's a perfect advert for the championship because you see all 4 manufacturers battling away there. You can see the little Porsche just in the background of Rob Sharp. He's waiting in the wings. You see the 3 wide, the McLaren, the BMW, the Aston Martin as well. All that's missing is the Mercedes. To be fair, that doesn't take away from the fact that we've had some excellent battling there. And I mean, to be fair, the other 2 drivers that were involved in that fight, well, we've got one of them to have a chat with us now, and it's Ben Gregory.
Yes, indeed. Ben, you must be pretty over the moon with that race. You've had a lot of rotten luck this season, but a strong result out of this one, and a lot of awesome close racing to go with it. Talk us through it, mate.
Oh, so good. Qualifying was fantastic. I'm actually very surprised I did so well. But yeah, it was fantastic respect from everyone.
Yeah.
On the entire race. I'm just a little bit more annoyed for me about ruining my stop and overshooting the box because I would have been potentially with my teammate. But honest, I wouldn't have had that great fight at the end. So.
Well, we certainly enjoyed watching it, mate. We did catch the little overshoot of the box, but that's the thing with racing, though. It's so fickle, isn't it? And a tiny moment like that can change so much over the course of a night.
Well, yeah, because especially it's good for 2 or 3 seconds, and we knew we had space to the guys behind, and it was just one of those moments of, damn, well, we could have had that, but the top 3 were gone, definitely gone.
Yeah.
But we did have it. Me and Mike. Mike did a stunning job to get it back in 4th as well.
He did. Well, it's obviously good points for the teams championship as well. It helps you still stay right up there. And you know, you're not in it for the full title fight with RD SimSport and Apex Racing Academy, but there must be a lot of pride considering the caliber of drivers that you're ahead of in the teams championship to come away with 3rd place if you safely hold on to it for the last round.
Yeah, I'm very just amazed at how well we've done, especially considering how bad luck I've had for a couple of rounds as well. So Mike's had to be pretty much holding us up, and even with his did not start at Hockenheim, I think we've done pretty well to hold on to 3rd for this long.
Well, I think you've done a mega job, Ben, and it's been great to watch you racing again, and obviously nice to see you overcome the bad luck that has plagued you for the earlier parts and even into the later parts of the season, to be fair. Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, thanks for the whole boosted team. Honestly, we've done a stunning job tonight. I'm really impressed with everyone. I think we did a great job, and hopefully we can continue into Barcelona for the final.
Well, I really wish you the best, Ben. And again, thanks very much for joining us tonight. Well done on your result. And, well, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Enjoy.
Cheers, man. See you.
And there we go, Ben Gregory. Another driver that, like I say, he's always up there, Ed. He's had the bad luck, like we mentioned before, and have continued to mention. But it's just nice because, you know, we get to speak to these people. We get to communicate and have a laugh with them. They're our friends. And when they do have a good night of it and they overcome these gremlins that they've seen, you are genuinely happy for them. You know, we don't put this on just for the sake of a broadcast, do we?
No, we don't. We are obviously members of the SRM community as much as the racing drivers are, and we do like to follow all the stories. We get involved in the chat, even when the racing isn't going on. We talk to the drivers. We see all the conversations, the practice sessions that they all host together. It is, like you've been saying, Chaz, a proper tight-knit community, and every single driver has played a part in making this probably one of the best little gems on the iRacing service. It's great to be a part of it, and the driver that was a part of many an exciting moment this race, for better or for worse, joins us in the commentary box.
Yeah, Dan McCauley with us in the box. Dan, you were leading early on, but were you under the very clear impression that you were giving the guys behind a chance to save fuel, or were you just going to rag it either way? Because you had some really strong pace in that opening stint.
So I knew that going 13 laps wasn't possible. So I knew all I had to do was do 12.
Yeah.
And that's the most, even if those guys were fuel saving behind, they probably would have been really struggling to make the 13 laps. So I kind of nailed that. We all pitted on the same lap, but you know, they had 3 or 4 litres left in the tank, so they got 3 or 4 seconds on me on the way out the pits.
Yeah.
I kind of thought, right, well, maybe the pace will bring me back into it, and somehow forgot to change the brake bias back and ended up backwards, so it was definitely not ideal.
Well, you can definitely blame the commentator's curse on that one as well, mate. I will hold my hands up for that. I've said next time I'm going to cross the border and go north, you're going to slap me anyway, so we'll resolve that off air. But, I mean, you still must be quite happy with the recovery drive afterwards, though. You had some mega racing on your way back up to 5th place.
I think the pace was absolutely unbelievable. I kind of checked caps the odd time, and Simon and Callum are doing 56.8s, 57 deads, and I'm 56.4. So I kind of was driving with a bit between my teeth, a little bit upset that I should have been up there fighting with those guys. But, you know, as I've said time and time again, the racing through the field here is unbelievable. Every single person seems to be able to, they might not have the pace, but as soon as you're behind them, they just fight for their life, and it's brilliant fun. So I had to really use the strength of the McLaren down the straight and the ridiculous brake bias to stop for turn 1 to make some pretty good lunges. So yeah, it was really good fun, especially at the end, catching Chris and Ben. I was totally shocked when I sort of caught them, because after the spin, Chris was 15 seconds ahead of me. So I was like, oh, there's, you know, no way I'm gonna get there. But
yeah,
I just kind of drove with the team's championship in mind, and yeah, it seemed to work out in the end.
It certainly did, especially as, despite you scored 1 point obviously for pole position, you scored identical points in the team's championship again tonight. So you are now 2 points behind going into the final round of the season. Are you and the RD guys talking about that, or are you both just sort of observing from distance each other and sort of just hoping for a really good fight?
Me and Chris gonna have 1 sentence discussions after each race. It's like, kind of, whoever has a better round normally has a better sentence, put it that way. And it's like, it's really, really tough, the fight between us, but we're having a proper laugh about it. I think it's really giving us, all of us, something to fight for.
Yeah.
Me and Chris might not be fighting for, well, every round fighting for wins and podiums, but we're constantly trying to do the best for the team.
Yeah.
Obviously, with me having that 25-point deficit and not finishing round 1, me and Lewis have really had to try and work hard to get up. And all Chris has had to do is sort of up his level a little bit, just to stop us scoring, 10 points more than each round.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's only been 2 or 3 points the last few rounds, he's kept it so close. So although Callum's sort of leading the ship for them, Chris has definitely anchored them at the top.
Well, it's good to hear that, as teams you identify that. It's great to see that you've got such a hang on everything that's going on around it. You've got your eye on the ball, and it's lovely to see that, because we've had this epic teams championship fight from the very start, and it's going to go right down to the wire with the closest of margins. What are your thoughts on the final round at Barcelona? Are you confident for that one?
I can't say I've driven the track in the last year, so it's going to be interesting. I know Lewis went really, really well there at the end of last season, so I'll be trying to steal some tips off him. I think it's going to be another really, really close race between the top 4 again. I think if Lewis had nailed his qualifying lap, we both kind of got stuck with the off tracks, and then there was a spinning car kind of cost Lewis a chance at the front row. I think the race could have been totally different if me and Lewis were in the top 4.
Yeah.
Because he could have been putting pressure from behind while I was trying to mess about at the front. So
yeah, for sure.
If it's business as usual at Barcelona, I'm pretty confident that we can just about edge them. I think it's going to be painful for either team that loses, because it has been so close. I genuinely can see it coming down to a dead heat at the end.
Well, I'm certainly excited to see how it turns out, mate, and it's on one of my favourite circuits as well. I know a lot of people disagree with me that Catalonia is great, but still, we'll cross that bridge in 2 weeks when we get to it. For now, though, Dan, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout-out to while we've got you?
Big shout-out to Lewis again. Sort of mega racing this week, mega practice as well. Well done to Simon on the win. And then just good luck to the guys in Poland this weekend for ESL R1. That kicks off. It's all exciting time for us, so yeah, best of luck to them.
Lovely stuff. Always a pleasure, Dan. Thank you very much for joining us. Sorry for commentators cursing you, and enjoy the week off. We'll see you at Catalonia.
Catch you in a bit, mate. Ciao.
Cheers. Well, there you go, Ed. One more round left in the championship here in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, and it is going to come right down to the wire between Apex Racing Academy and RD Simsport. Callum Brandt gains a few points back on Lewis Ward in this round as well, but it's only going to be 15 points now, so Lewis basically just has to finish within the top 6 to take the championship title, and, well, actually no. He's only got to finish in the top 10 in the final round of the championship, and Callum will not be able to beat him any other way. Consider the fact that Lewis has finished on the podium in every single race so far this season. It's looking likely that we've got a new champion on our hands with that number 97 car.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that little interview that we had there with Dan. He was able to talk about the differences between themselves and RD Simsport brilliantly, and as well, just I think the fact of the matter is Dan McCauley had a very Christopher Smith drive. If you remember at the start of the season, Chaz, where Chris had to do recovery drive after recovery drive after recovery drive, and we were just thinking, when is Chris going to have a normal race? Yeah, I think it was from Spa onwards where he started to really put in those performances and keep himself out of trouble and just drive. That's what's helped out RD Simsport so much, and I think we saw Dan McCauley dip a little bit into the Christopher Smith handbook in terms of recovering from a setback absolutely brilliantly. So that is a huge moment for Apex Racing Academy. Let's not forget as well, Chaz, on the same race last season, the round at Catalonia, it was where Lewis Ward got his first ever race victory in the SRM GT4 Challenge. Will history repeat itself and see Lewis win the championship and the race, or will Callum Brandt come through, defy the odds, and become what could be a very exciting and unlikely champion? Who knows? But all I know, Chaz, is that I cannot wait. I'll be really missing it next week, as we do have a week off for Valentine's Day, but we come back for the 21st, and I cannot wait whatsoever, Chaz. It's going to be a brilliant one.
It really is going to be absolutely fantastic fun. It's always exciting here in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Another brilliant win for Simon Povey, the most wins this season. He's only ever finished a race this season first or second. It's remarkable form. But talking about exciting, that's how John Tusting has explained his moment trying to avoid Heinz Mayer's spin at the beginning. In his words, he says, "It was exciting. I saw it happening and moved left. Then left some more, and then a bit more. Then I couldn't go left anymore, and I bruised my foot trying to push the throttle pedal through the floor. I've closed my eyes and have somehow survived." And, of course, at the top of the Teams Championship, it's those that have survived that have taken the top honours so far. 2 points separate Apex Racing Academy and RD Simsport into the final. 15 points separate Lewis Ward and Callum Brandt. Join us in 2 weeks' time, everybody, where we will see the conclusion of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge at one of my favourite tracks, Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. But for now, I've been Chaz Draycott with the wonderful Ed May here at Monza for round 9, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Enjoy your night.
Opportunistic, still rubbing panels as they go together. It's folded the wing mirror in on Gerardo's car.
Misano is such a difficult circuit for these guys to get right. There's a lot of start-stop sections around the back. It's a very, very quick section as well.
It's a fantastic start from the 23. They're 4 wide there by the look of it.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Warning: the following video contains flashing imagery that may cause discomfort and/or seizures for those with photosensitive epilepsy. Viewer discretion is advised.
he will be on my